Hello, welcome everyone to today's Millionaire Mentor live call. I'm so happy you guys are here. One, because it's Halloween, so thank you guys for making time even though it's Halloween. I know a lot of you guys don't even celebrate it, but here in LA, a lot of people do celebrate, so I am not dressed up in a costume. This is just how I normally dress. But we are very excited for today's live call. Ty's gonna be on in a little bit. If you guys know how this goes, we like to just open up the live call. My name is Alec. I'm the product manager here with Ty. Help build out a lot of the curriculum, the programs for a lot of the programs that you guys are in, like SMMA, Real Estate, Millionaire Mentor, like this one. If you guys come to our seminars, yes, I'm sure you guys are very tired of hearing that if you guys have been on the original live calls. But just in case you are new to this, that is me. This is who I am. Today we're gonna be talking about the money-making education. It's gonna be a very cool topic that Ty likes to talk about because one, Knowledge Society, TaiLopez.com, we want to keep progressing school system and the way that people are learning at home. You know, we didn't have this growing up, so money-making education is very near and dear to him and what our mission statement is about. So excited for you guys to be on this. Second thing is this is actually a bonus call for you guys that have done the first 12 calls. If you guys got into that first time that we had launched this program, this is a bonus one for you guys that are taking action in the very beginning. So we want to give you a 13th call on Halloween, which is kind of a weird coincidence. But yeah, so if you guys normally hear me, I'm talking a little bit lower because Ty's in the next room just doing a podcast. We have a very cool special guest here that her husband are just like Bitcoin billionaires. She also helped fund a huge seed for her company in artificial intelligence. So she's super cool. Look out for that podcast. Can you help me remind her name? It's Crystal Rose Pierce, I believe is her name. So if you guys want to even like Google her, she's super cool. Crystal Rose Pierce, very known in kind of the Bitcoin world. So if you guys are interested in that is very awesome. Fun fact about her, at 11, she started coding already and became super fluent in that. So let's get to reviewing the assignment. This is the fun part a lot of times just because you guys get to see the behind the scenes of Ty's team, but also you guys can network with everyone in here. So a lot of you guys are on this call. You're part of a very special group, little tribe of being able to see what each other's answers are, some of the takeaways from last week's assignment, and some takeaways that you hadn't seen, you know, in case you missed a certain part of the book or if you didn't think that way of certain things. So last week's assignment was to read Happiness Hypothesis, which is probably one of my favorite books. One, it's on Ty's 150 book list, but also it changed my mindset in being able to make a lot of just practicalities of what happiness is, according to Jonathan Haidt, because of course this is a hypothesis, but for me a lot of it was proven theory that I had tested for myself in my life, but so I kind of want to see how it worked for you guys too, and then being able to kind of just pick the top 3 people that you would exchange for. So this is how it works. Comment below your favorite entry of this last week after reading Happiness Hypothesis. Put your summary below. Put your name, where you're coming from, where you're listening from. I'm Alec from the Bay Area originally, but I'm in LA, so I want to give you guys a little shout out of where you guys are coming from. Always fun to see where you guys are tuning in from the world. Let's see, can you refresh a little bit, but Josh, and then we could. Cool. Let's see. Hi, Alex. Will from Toronto. It's actually Alec, like the Baldwin, but thank you. Nice to see you're coming from Toronto. You keep scrolling down. Is this the last session? Arash, if you were in the original group, the test group that had 12 calls, this is your bonus 13th call. So last week was your last call, but we want to give you guys a bonus one for taking action early on. Arash said, Alec, how are you? I'm doing well, thank you. I'm here at Ty's house. It is not the most sunny day in LA, but it is a little cloudy and it's a good day. Monique, happy Halloween. Ty, let's see. Oh, Ari said, Ty, what techniques do you use to speed read? Are you able to speed read due to techniques or is it natural talent? So I think I could speak on this because I've known Ty for a couple of years. When he speed reads, if you don't have access to the speed reading course, the smart reading is probably one of the bonuses from before, but definitely get into our speed reading course. It's a 7-part series that's super awesome of how Ty likes to speed read. I'm sure there's also YouTube videos that you could kind of get into more of that. But I touched on this before. It's all about your intention. And if you know who Jim Quick is, Jim Quick, his last name is spelled K-W-I-K. He is one of the mentors that Ty had used to speed read and kind of just get through a lot of books quicker. Jim Quick has really good practical principles that Tai followed, and one of them is just your power of intention of when you're reading. A lot of people, if this is like you're reading and you're in a book, you're reading chapter 1, and then you go through a paragraph and you're like, what did I just read? It's because you weren't 100% conscious and intending to read that. So like, if you understand how a book is, 70% of it, you get the meat of it without reading 30% of it, because there's a lot of stories in there. An author can't sell you a book with 5 pages, so it's filled with stories. Just like in the book, how people remember things based on metaphors, a lot of those are metaphors. So if you understand that as an author, as a person that's selling their book, they have to give you full meat of it, but you don't have to get every single word in there. So if you understand just the principle by looking at the table of contents, and if you understand what your objective is for the day and you read with intention, knowing that like, hey, I'm reading Jack Canfield's book, The Winning, and I need to know how to better motivate my team. If you're seeing that your numbers are dropping down, you want to get people to get incentivized. He has specific advice on that. And then when you read like that, you're reading with attention and you have opportunity cost to read other books. So that's some of the things that Tai does, especially for his books. And also, yes, is it natural talent? I don't know if it's natural talent, but it's like lifting weights, he said. He didn't start off reading a book a day. He's not starting off lifting 500 pounds. Started off when he was young. He was like 9 or even younger reading books, and his grandma was reading books, and he was always into that. So it's like a muscle. Let's see. Deborah said, I missed 3 of the webinars. Will we have access to them after the course closes? I would hate to miss them. So whenever we have a recording of the call, like this, you have it up for 24 hours and then it disappears. So part of that is because we want you to have the full experience of getting mentored live. But if for whatever reason it was like you really couldn't make it, you're traveling or something, just reach out to our support team. Click on Let's Chat down there on the bottom right of your screen. We'll help you out. We don't want you to miss out too much. Let's go down a little bit, Josh. Hello, Sarah. Hello, Cesar Ortiz. What kind of education to Millionaire take? Not sure what that means. Yeah, you can refresh it. Yeah. So if you guys are just jumping on, my name is Alec. We're going to be going over money making education with Tai. He's just in the other room finishing up a podcast with a super cool guest, Crystal Rose Pierce. So they're huge in Bitcoin if you guys are good or like reading about that. Let's see. Hey, Alec, like you, I finished 6-7 steps consecutively, and I also, I'm sorry. I'm getting told that I'm still a little bit loud. My voice is a little booming sometimes, so let me know if you guys can still hear me. I'm going to talk about this level, so that way it still sounds good for you guys. Like you, I finished the 6-7 steps consecutively, and I also have my notebook as proof. Sweet. Yes, I still have that notebook. Even when I moved from the Bay Area, I still keep it. I like to read over my notes because you kind of just see how much you changed, over or progressed, improved, whatever way it is after going through that program. I still have it on my phone. I have the MP3s on my phone just because I always pick up something that I didn't hear from the last time and I could still implement it. Let's see, Monique, MentorBox, listen to the podcast. Yes, MentorBox is really cool. I actually just got back from San Francisco at the MentorBox offices with Alex Mayer and their team. We're doing a lot of cool stuff with them, so definitely check out MentorBox. Let's see, Daryl Hall said, hi Alec, Daryl from Detroit, from the D. Are we still allowed to stay in the tribe even though this is our last call? Yeah. I want to make sure you guys still be able to, just network with each other. If we do relaunch, in the future, then you guys will still have access to the tribe. Don't worry about that. Farah from Canada. The book gives a lot of interesting insight into how the conscious and subconscious mind work against each other. Yes, 3 ways to change your brain is meditation, cognitive therapy, and drugs. Yep. So also, when you guys are putting the insight here, I want to know how you were able to make that practical, because I don't want you guys to just be insight junkies of just being able to read a book and then regurgitate what you learned. Be able to apply that knowledge too. Like you hear knowledge is power, also apply knowledge is power. So being able to take that. So for example, for me, this book gives a lot of insight, conscious and subconscious mind work against each other. Yeah, it's like the elephant and then the rider, right? So how are you able to do that? For me, if you were to play sports, I did Muay Thai for a long time. Going up to a fight is very daunting. You get your name announced, you're fighting in front of thousands of people. My elephant brain is like, oh my God, you're gonna die. Like if you get knocked out in front of everyone, like what are your family gonna think of you? But the writer in my logical mind is kind of like, you know what, you trained, you did 12 weeks for this, just stay calm. So it's kind of like a constant battle, and you're able to just be able to compartmentalize, what's going on in your head, calms your nerves a little bit, and always staying cool under pressure. So knowing that the conscious and subconscious mind work against each other, it kind of gives you, just understanding and just being cool under pressure. And you can do that for business. I do that for a lot of my other side businesses that I run too, just knowing that there's a lot going on at all times, but just always staying cool under pressure. Let's go. You can scroll down a little bit, Josh. Is my volume okay? Yeah. Also, if you guys are listening, I'm sure you guys are okay. Amy Ray said, Alec, where is your costume? Go down a little bit, Josh. Yeah. Alec, where's your costume? We'll be so disappointed if Lopez doesn't show up costumed. Hopefully you don't get disappointed if Tai doesn't show up with a costume. We want to make sure, we're staying professional and still having fun for you guys. But yeah, what are you wearing, Amy? Your costume, I mean. Just don't make that weird. Can you refresh the page? Also, guys, if you are coming to our Millionaire Roundtable, I know some of you guys got into this program, went to our seminar, Master Plan Seminar. Some of you guys are going to be at the Roundtable. Hopefully see you guys there on November 9. And then we are planning to have another conference soon too, so look out for that date. Leslie Pomitz, you're from American Canyon. That is crazy because I am from Vallejo, California, right across the way. I learned that people never fully recover from living next to highway. That noise causes stress. You never fully adapt. And even if you have somewhat adapted, there's still impairment cognitive tasks. I live right off a busy road. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because sometimes people like that. Like my brother, for example, lives in Oakland and he loves the noise, the city noise too. So I guess it just depends on the person. Some people can't sleep unless there's like a white noise too. So it just depends on your personality. Let's see. Also, if you guys are just joining in, comment below on your favorite entry, the biggest takeaway that you got from Happiness Hypothesis, how you're applying it to your life, and even the 3 people that you would exchange for, because that's kind of exciting. Hi, Alex. Greetings from Santa Ana. Hello. What's a personality test made by Tai? So there's 2. I want you guys to do the full one. So if you do tailopez.com/full-quiz, go ahead and do that. If you guys want to take your time to just learn more about yourself, it gives you your dark triad results, gives you your Myers-Briggs results. Also, if you know what time you were born, where you were born, include that. It's like a fun part of like just knowing your astrology, knowing a lot of your personality. If you believe in that or not, totally fine. Still want to learn kind of like your attachment styles too, which is really cool. So do that right now, tailopez.com/full-quiz if you haven't done that already. It's super cool. This helped when I was able to find cool business partners, even roommates too. Like out here I live in West Hollywood in a house there, and I had my roommates take it because I use my intuition. I'm a Cancer. I use my intuition to kind of get vibes from people, and I'm pretty good at reading people, especially after learning Tai's PACE system. But it's always fun when the data aligns too. Like I have a roommate where he's just not the most conscientious person. And I just always thought it was me because I would say from my scores and from my work with Tai, fairly high conscientious. But I noticed that my friend or my roommate isn't, where he just does little practical things where he messes up, doesn't put things back where they are. And I had him take the test, and his conscientious level was very low on the score. So it's fun seeing this align up. A lot of PhDs had gone into the test. So tailopez.com/full-quiz. Can you refresh it, Josh? Comment below, guys, on your biggest takeaway, biggest entry that you found most enlightening from this book and how you're applying it for yourself. Let's see. Yeah, ooh, a lot of comments here. Also, scroll below, too. If you guys are at home, you can still listen in on the audio, but scroll below, comment, you could thumbs up people you agree with. You could reply to them. I don't see too many replies from a lot of people. I know you guys do it in the tribes a lot, but doing this on the live calls is super cool. See, my 3-person I would exchange for is Bruce Lee, Albert Einstein, Charles M. Schwab. Yeah, I like all 3. So Bruce Lee, I would say for me, I would definitely say yes to that because like the quote that Tai always talks about is, I don't fear the man who practiced 1,000 kicks once, but practice 1 kick 1,000 times. I think that mindset definitely changed the game for me for a lot of the different things that I was doing, being able to stick with one thing and just, being a master at it. With Albert Einstein, yeah, of course, that goes unsaid. It's a pretty obvious one. Also, if you want to learn a little bit more about Albert Einstein, read the book Barking Up the Wrong Tree. I had mentioned that in the last call when we were out in Vegas, but didn't get to finish too much of the background of that book. But Barking Up the Wrong Tree, Albert Einstein was definitely good at, honing at that one thing, but who am I to judge him? but it just gives you the science of like the downsides of him focusing too much on one thing and how some parts fall apart. So being able to not only focus on, like the optimistic side and the grass is greener, like he was human. And so being able to study the human side of successful people kind of just gives you insight on like how you want to live your life, how you want to dedicate your life, how you want to prioritize your life. So yes, I want you to have a full understanding of Albert Einstein. Very fascinating story. Charles Schwab, yes, 100%. With him, if you guys read How to Win Friends and Influence People, he was a genius at being able to vibe with people, how to read people, how to motivate and incentivize people. So read the part on Charles Schwab. He was paid, back when he was working with Andrew Carnegie, he was paid $1 million on a salary just because of how he can manage people. And that still stuck with me to this day, because your likability, the way that you can manage people, the way you can perform and be helpful is huge in career development. Not only here with Tai, but learned that over at Pixar and my previous jobs too. So Charles Schwab is definitely a good story to learn about. Let's see. Amy Ray said, the 5-person marketing department I'm part of all wore different yellow emoji t-shirts today with different expressions. Mine is one with the hard eyes, example of practical happiness and natural enthusiasm. Yes, this is what it's all about. This is professionalism and your energy, record master. Life is meant to enjoy. Yes, 100%. No. Didn't mean for you to take it the wrong way. It's totally fun. A lot of people are dressing up too. And if I had time to get a little bit more in the spirit, I would have got a super cool outfit for you guys, but I'm sorry I didn't. If you scroll down a little bit, Josh. Let's see. Yeah, it's a good quote. Greetings from Germany. Hello. Carly, it's Carly from Arizona. It reminded me of how much mindful and meditation are so important, and being aware and working on removing past beliefs that don't serve us anymore. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and if you guys I know I asked you guys to put in practical principles of like how you were able to apply it, those principles from the book. It's totally fine if it's something personal too. I want, the whole thing is about you and about growing with you and being able to get mentored with Tai too. So don't share anything that you don't feel comfortable with. Also, I remember I talked about the hive mentality and how that social and having friends, family, romance, the third pillar of Tai's health, wealth, love, and happiness is huge, for your fulfillment. So having the hive mentality of knowing that, you have a community with you, you're not alone, I'm here, reach out to our support team, we're all here too. So keep growing as a community, this is super cool. So I'm happy you guys are on this one. Hey Alec, I know Tai does the event where he teaches 15 people. I don't remember what it's called, but how do I get in and what do we learn? So that Balraj, that's the one I was talking about with the Millionaire Roundtable, of where it's just all in our room. If you guys had gone to our seminar, if you remember the strategy room where we serve the food, it's kind of like a cool war room. So the Millionaire Roundtable is where Tai sits down with you personally for 6 to 7 hours. Last time we had Alex Mayer there, we had the billionaire Naveen Jain there, and he just delegates huge time just going around of your exact business model, stepping you step by step on what you should do, what you should pivot on, how you should edit it, and just real practical consulting advice. Like Tai charges 100 grand to be able to get 100 grand to $1 million for personal advice. So getting into that, super valuable. Last time we had 9 people there, which is super cool because it was just all high level entrepreneurs, some people that are already working as an entrepreneur, wanting to do their own business, people that already had their own business that wanted to expand. One of the cool guys, Marco, was from the Bay Area. He works with Elon Musk at Tesla Corporate, and he's just working on being able to, do his own brand. So that's super cool. There's a bunch of all walks of entrepreneurs in that group, and you just get specific strategy. A lot of times people really want to be able to meet Tai and be able to just have him help you take that next step. So that's what that program is. You scroll down a little bit. Let's see. Any good apps to help you focus and stay on task? Yeah, so it depends on, you mean like you personally or being able to manage someone? So there's different ones where there's like product management ones that you could use. Trello is a good one. But also if you want to just stay focused, let me think. Josh, it was Headspace was like a good like meditation app. It's just more like staying focused on a task is really just, again, being able to like just having a clear mind. I know there's so much that could go on. Trust me, working with Tai and the team, there's a lot that's always going on. So being able to focus on one task and finish it thoroughly and exceed expectations, definitely try Headspace. And just being in a clear mindset. Like even it starts off with your morning day. So like if you guys read the book Tools of Titans, there's a huge part in there of being able to fix your bed in the morning, having those little wins. We talked about little wins. So those little tasks definitely add up. You want to stay clear, having a good organized space, not messy and clustery. So yes. Hey, I received an email about Millionaire Mentor to renew about 3 months, but it says call once a month. Why is it not once a week anymore? Sam, well, Ty's going to go into this a little bit more. We just had a lot of good feedback from these weekly calls, and it's cool that you're learning something new every single time. And so we're going to expand it a little bit, where Ty's going to give more like a deeper assignment. So like you guys have weekly assignments, so picture a 1 month assignment. So being able to just keep executing. Sorry, getting told a little bit too loud still. Sorry, I want you guys to hear me, but also, yeah. You're gonna make it more sensitive? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna talk as if we're in a library. How's this, Josh? Am I good? All right, cool. So I'm gonna talk at this volume. I'm sure you guys can still hear me because Josh is still monitoring. Yeah, so about the new program, being able to have a bigger assignment, something that you can really just execute and be focused on. It helps where if you're an A, for example, make this really practical. If you're an A, action type, you like to just do so many different things, but you don't finish them. Being able to have one thing, 1 month, helps you just get to A to B and focus on that one thing, and you'll realize that you could just exceed the expectations you had for that 1 month because you're focused on that one thing. If you guys remember Gary Keller, the one thing. Let's see, we still have access to the accelerator program, stage 1, if we don't renew our access. Yeah, I want to make sure you guys still have access to the money program. Very big. That changed my finances extraordinarily just because of the principles in that program. So go through the money program. Even the 3-bucket lesson, even so practical. Something that my parents could have easily told me when I was growing up, but didn't. So go through that program. Let's see. Jerome Moss from Zurich, hello. It is 1 hour earlier as normal summertime. Good evening to all of you. I don't believe it is already is a 12th call. Oh, you can't believe it's a 12th call already. It's actually the 13th call. So the 13th one, you guys are getting a bonus one. We didn't want to just boot you out last week and be like, hey, bye. So we wanted to give you a bonus one because you guys signed up early in the program. So congrats. And then let's see. Can you scroll down a little bit, Josh? Let's see. Go up a little bit. Jiteth had a good question. How to network, what to talk about to a complete stranger about, and build rapport for the first time. How to approach them. Tips for introverts to turn extrovert. Okay, so let's break that down. It's a little bit loaded. So one thing, it's weird. So I'm an introvert, although I'm more of kind of an ambivert where I'm good at being able to network. Like if you guys met me in person, you guys may have thought I was introvert or extroverted, but time and place. So like naturally I like to stay at home, read. I'm not really the biggest party animal, but I'm good at networking at the same time. Sorry, getting told I'm still a little bit loud. So Josh, maybe next time we should move. We should move sets just in case if they're still like filming.
I don't know what else I
It's okay. How about now? Still?
I mean, you literally just talk like you're talking in front of the person.
Yeah.
Because they'll be able to hear you.
Okay.
So just be
Okay. I'm trying to be conscious, or I'm not going to be too loud for you guys, but you can still hear me. So, how to network. James Swanek, probably one of Ty's business partners, also used to work with us and now has his own company called Swannies. He is probably the king of networking, where Tai loves to bring him around. He's good at being able to network with everyone. He's 100% extrovert. His number one principle is that people want to do business with people they know and like. So even if you're a complete stranger, you don't want to be too weird where you're approaching them and you're like, hey, I want to know everything you know so that way you can like me. And then being able, just too much of getting. So you want to be able to just naturally let it come out. So for me, it depends on what the setting is. If you're in like a conference, like if a lot of you guys came to our conference, that's a setting where you want to just jump right in, where like everyone's there for a specific goal, and it's easy to network because you're on a same wavelength. As opposed to if you're at a grocery store and you're trying to network with someone, it's not the appropriate setting. So you want to be able to first understand which setting you're in. If it's a setting to network, then yes, you could do, you have good opens where it's like, hey, what business are you in? What industry are you in? That already is being able to just find what their interests are. Then you could pick and choose of how you guys relate. And a lot of times you don't have to push too much. A lot of times people are more reserved. If you ask them a question, you can kind of feel their vibe if they want to open up to you. So tips for an introvert to turn extrovert. One thing you have to understand is that you can't change yourself too much. That you understand your strengths. If your strength is being introverted, then that's totally fine. You don't have to change yourself to be something you're not, because people read fake right away. It's so easy to spot someone that's not being themselves. So definitely it's good to step out of your comfort zone, but don't try to change yourself. But building rapport for a first time. So for example, if I wanted to do business as like your social media manager, and I would have come in and just be like, hey, I could help you out doing X, Y, and Z. I put together this audit. You don't need, no worries if you don't want to do business with me. I kind of just want to give you what's worked for my past clients. I could take you from here to here and have you close more customers and stay in business a little bit longer. Not salesy. I'm not trying to get anything from you. I'm literally just being like, hey, this is how I can help. If not, totally fine. I'm working with these other clients. So things like that. Hope that helps. When will Tai publish his book? It's coming up in this upcoming year. I want you guys to be able to see it. Let's see. Oh, can you scroll up and then refresh the page? So again, if you guys are just joining, Tai's gonna be on in a little bit, just wrapping up his podcast. But put below what your favorite entry was from Happiness Hypothesis and the 3 people that you would exchange with. Like someone put Bruce Lee, Albert Einstein, and Charles Schwab, and then put why though. Put why you chose those. Scroll all the way to the top, or like to the first entry, and then refresh, yeah. Let's see. G-Test, thanks Alec. Yeah, awesome, you're welcome. Amir said, hey, I met James Swanwick in Toronto. He was so down to earth and actually answered some questions that I had for him. Yeah, definitely reach out to him. He's super cool, very down to earth. And he helped make his Swannies, those blue blocker glasses, scaled that to $1 million business, and then went into business with Tai. So super cool story with James. Definitely get to know him. Let's see. Thanks, Alec, for the 13-week knowledge. You're welcome, Louise. Nice to see you again on these calls. Super fun to see a lot of people that I recognize and hear from. Martin said, you sound fine to me, Alec. Cool. All right. Sometimes I get kind of loud. I kind of just have a booming voice because I get excited and I want to share a lot with you, but got to calm that down. Scroll down a little bit, Josh. Let's see. Can we revisit old videos from the mentorship program? Yeah, just reach out to our support team. The main thing about this program is just being able to have that, like how you guys are live here, it's different rather than you're just watching a previous, recorded call. So if you guys are if you guys got in a little bit later in the program, you have a couple more calls, then just be able to come on live. Let's see, could you recommend a book on how to get organized? Yes. What was that one, there was one book that Tai was drafting in. The Power of Tidying Up, was that what it was? I can't remember the exact title, but that book definitely, I wasn't one that was always organized. I was kind of an A where I would just do like so many different things and then I'll fix up, the parts later, kind of like a very entrepreneur spirit. So that book kind of had me slow down, have my priorities straight, and kind of just stay organized. So definitely check out that book, The Power of Tidying Up, I believe. Let's see. Can we have access to entrepreneur? Yeah, Ryan said, when we rebuy, can we have access to the entrepreneur program if we already have the money accelerator? Yeah, Ryan, just reach out to your onboarding consultant. They could help you out with just having access to other things. I know you guys want to keep learning, keep progressing, so yeah, it's totally fine. Can you scroll down a little bit? It's rap? So I can talk normally? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to have a little bit normal voice. It's weird for me to talk this quiet. I just feel like I'm a person that's a vibe. So if you guys are a vibe person, tell me if you guys are good at, if you have intuition, if you could read people. One thing if you want to connect with someone is being able to read their vibe. So if you have like a very down body language, it's easy to read. It's very easy to read their vibe. So Ty's getting mic'd up. He's going to come on in a little bit. But yeah, if you have a vibe like this, people could read that. If you have a vibe like this, like having a power position, people could read that. So be aware of your nonverbal cues. Tai is here. What's up, Tai?
What's up? Like the jacket?
Thanks. Thanks.
What's up, everybody? Nah, I'm good. I was just doing my podcast here, new episode, talking about cryptocurrency. I might have Crystal come on. She was my guest. Might have her come on for 2 minutes. What's our numbers at? There we go. Zach, what kind of laugh was that? It sounded like you're killing somebody. Okay, somebody said when we rebuy, can we have access? Yeah. Okay, we're talking about money making education. In some ways, this is almost the most important. I'm making a quick call. Somebody's flying in here. How do I scroll on this thing?
I'm controlling here.
Oh.
Would you prefer a laptop?
Yeah, it might be good for me to be able to scroll at my own pace. So money making education, what does that mean for you? What does that mean for me? Here, let me give you kind of the basic thing of what we're going to talk about today. Sorry, I have to make a call. Somebody's flying in and they're lost. All right, so here's the way to think about today what we're going to talk about. The basic, it's very simple. In fact, what you've been doing is what I consider money-making education. Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, who I think are the best two business people in the world, they have a very simple statement. What made them money in 1975 wouldn't have made them money in 1976. What made them money in 1976, what they learned that year, didn't make them money in 77. And all the way up to 2017 now. Oh, sorry, this is them. Hey, did you see my text? Yeah, just come here because it's going to be a tight schedule to get there. So I'll send you my address when you land. Yeah, just take an Uber or taxi. Yeah. Okay. Whoa. Why? Whoa. You should have. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Well, how are we going to do the Halloween party? You didn't know that that's what we're doing? Well, the reason I said fly in early is because we're on a tight schedule. So that's why I kept moving your flight back. Just tell them you can meet them tomorrow or text me. I'm on a call. I'm doing a live call. All right, bye. Okay, sorry about that, people. This phone call I just did reminds me of something very important. At the core of everything that I hope you learned, some of you are completing the time we had together in these past weeks. You must be smart, okay? At the core of making money, more than anything that I've talked about in the last weeks, mark my words, if you have no common sense, there is no hope for you. There isn't any hope for you. Because you'll figure out how to make $1 million, and because you have no common sense, you have no knowledge base, you go back to zero again. I've seen it over and over and over again. You have to have the ability to and let me explain what I mean by this. And this is all going to kind of come together. Josh, why don't you have Crystal and Francois come out for a second? So here's you today. And the goal, I don't know what your goal is. Let's just do this. You have some goal. It could be $1 million. It could be a better life. It could be happiness, like whatever. I'll just use this dollar thing. Francois, come say hello. So at the core of this path right here, I'm going to bring you guys on in 1 second because we're talking about money-making education. So at the core of this, what gets you here? Trust me, to get to this goal, there's at least 1,000 steps. At least 1,000 steps to get to your goal. Okay? Some of the steps are hard, some of the steps are easy. There's 1,000 steps to get what you want out of life. So a lot of people are like, Tai, what is the one overarching principle that all of these 1,000 steps require for you to get your goal? And in my opinion, and if you really look at the facts, it is being a learning machine. Why? And there's something above that. So this process of getting what you want, the overarching principle is to be a learning machine. If you were, and above smart, I'm going to put common sense. I'll just put CS since I ran out of room. So you can't be smart, in my opinion, if you don't have common sense. You can't be a learning machine if you're not smart. You can't accomplish these steps to this unless you're the learning machine. So it really, at the top of the chain, at the top of the pyramid, at the top of the triangle is common sense. All right, you guys want to jump in here? Yeah. I wanted you to say hello to a couple guests that were on my podcast. Here, come right here. Crystal, come. So this is Francois. Listen to her voice. She needs to be on radio.
Hello.
And come, and there's Crystal here. So basically, Crystal is an entrepreneur, and Francois is on her team. She's raised $6 million for her cryptocurrency, blockchain, ICO. So we're and she's got an artificial intelligence bot. That's pretty cool, called Sense. So let me ask you real quick your opinion, because I know I don't want to keep you too long. Right here, to get your goal, my basic core supposition is to accomplish the 1,000 steps that it takes to, in your case, like Crystal's raising 6 million, or you've already raised 6 million?
We've raised 6 million.
6 million in the pre.
Raising 15 million.
So she's going to do 9 more, right? A total of 15 or
No,
21?
15 more, 21.
Okay, so she's raising 21 million starting next week. And she's already has a business called Sensei that has 3 million customers already. So that's like her goal. Let's just say her goal is 15 million more of capital. She already has 21. So she's here with already 6 million. So to get there, there's 1,000 steps, even though it's only in a few weeks. So you got to be a learning machine to know what to do next. In order to be a learning machine, you have to be smart. But there's different kinds of smart. And that's why I said above that, there was no room to write it. Actually, I can just do it like this.
Common sense?
Common sense is no longer common in the world. I cannot tell you how many smart entrepreneurs, smart people I meet. They get this, they realize they got to do steps, they become a learning machine, they learn how to learn, they learn who to learn from, they find mentors, they find advisors. They're actually smart, meaning they have IQ. But this one's missing. Literally, I told you, my friend sold his company for $18 million. And then after he paid taxes, after he bought a house, after he bought a couple cars, he had 10 million left. And then he put all 10 million in a piece of real estate deal between here and Las Vegas. You know what is it? Francois likes to party. So have you ever driven from LA to Vegas?
No.
You haven't?
No, it's too full.
Have you driven?
From LA to Vegas?
Yeah.
Oh, I used to go.
It's all desert.
At least once a month, yeah.
Okay. Would you invest in real estate in the middle of the desert, all of your net worth, $10 million?
No, I go where the water is.
Yeah, see, Crystal has more common sense. If you take $10 million in LA and you buy a duplex or a condo building or an apartment building, a down payment of $10 million, you can probably borrow another 10 to 20 million from a bank. So basically you could do a $30 million deal in Venice, in Santa Monica, but no, this guy I know, he had this, he had accomplished his goal, he was a learning machine, smart, but he had no common sense. So guess how, he had to get a job again. Imagine selling your company for 18 million and having to go back to a 9-to-5 job. That's what happens when you don't have common sense. Do you think you have common sense?
I have common sense.
Francois?
I have a lot of sense.
Tell them what you did with your catamaran.
We were going to a 41st birthday party and we crashed it into, we got shipwrecked in Mystique on a coral reef.
Was that common sense?
There wasn't common sense. We didn't have enough sense to know how to boat properly.
She crashed her boat into a coral reef partying. So that would be an example. Look, let's just take.
I was the captain. I was
But
just
you
a
were
shipmate.
on the boat and you could have died.
I could have tried, but it was only 6 feet of water, and I did manage to pack.
What
my
if there were
bag,
sharks?
What if there were sharks? The only sharks on the island were the big wigs.
The sharks were the guys. So let me ask you, I don't want to keep you guys too long, but what do you think is the most important thing? Let's say if your goal is to build $1 million company. This is my chart. What would you add or subtract from this? That's the most important thing, because she's been an entrepreneur. How many years have you been an entrepreneur?
I started my first company that I registered as a corporation when I was 16.
Yes.
Yeah, I was selling.
And now
on
she,
the black
at the
market
age
in
of
junior
24,
high.
no.
I've had 3 companies. I've sold 1. I failed 1, and now I'm on my 3rd that I've raised capital for, and I think we're on an amazing trajectory.
Well, she already raised $6 million. And how long? How long did it take you to raise $6 million?
So I did it in 2 tranches. I did 2 rounds. One was $1.5 million, and the second was $4.5 million. The first time, maybe 9 months. The second time I got smarter, about 6 months, and this time around it's about 3 months, 4 months.
So like 18 months, you've raised $6 million, roughly.
Yeah.
So
well, in this, it'll be a total maybe 21 in that time.
$21 million. What has been the most common sense thing that allowed you to get investors and people to put that much into you? Because it's not the biggest raise ever, but it's a lot. $21 million is a lot of people voting on you with their checkbook. What do you think is the most common sense thing that you learned throughout this process that's allowed it to work?
So integrity, keep your word, and show up.
Yep.
Just be there, and speed. Do things fast, fail fast, succeed fast. Just do things as fast as you can.
But notice, everything she just said is like really common sense. Be a good person.
Yeah.
If you say you're going to be there, and then don't be too slow. Because life, there's a famous, I think it was Aristotle or Socrates said, life, art is long, but life is short. And what he meant by that was to make your life an art piece, whatever it is you want to paint. It takes a long time. But the problem is, you and I, at most, have 80 to 100 years, and you're not doing that much when you're 5 years old or you're 99. So you have this, you're going to be asleep. This is a crazy thing. You will be asleep for 33% of your life, basically.
Oh, unless you're an entrepreneur.
Even an entrepreneur, you'll make up for it later.
Or Francois, unless you're partying. I think
Francois, what is the greatest common sense thing you've learned being a partier? She has the best voice.
Keep yourself together and don't party too hard because nobody likes a mess. Stamina. Yeah. Stamina is vital.
I agree.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thanks for being
Ty.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Francois likes attention, but she doesn't like to admit it. All right, Crystal, we'll talk soon. Thanks for coming out.
Yes, please.
You guys can hear the full podcast I did with them, and you can go to tailopez.com/sense, which will redirect in a week. Yeah, it's funny that the name of it is sense.
Makes some
Common sense. So let's go through this real quick. What do you have to do to get common sense? And it's relatively simple. Number one, you have to realize that you're not really born with it. And that is a huge thing. And it doesn't really come with age. That's people think it comes with age. So let's say you're 30 years old, you're 40 years old. You will go, well, Tai, I have common sense because I've made mistakes. I wish life worked that way. Think of it this way. You're here. You have a bow and arrow. Here's your bow and arrow, okay? And you're shooting at a target. So you shoot and you miss, okay? You're 19 years old, you miss. There's the bullseye. So at 20, you go, well, I'll shoot again. You miss again. And you then are 28, you miss again. And 35, and 39, and 43. Here's the problem in life. There's almost, how many ways can you miss a bullseye? The answer is basically infinity minus one. Not exactly, but roughly. Like there's only one way to hit the target, and you might even shoot up here. So if you think that age guarantees that you're going to have the common sense needed to make money, then what that would mean is that in society, every 60, 70, and 80-year-old would be making more money than they ever had in their life. But the reality of life is a lot of 60, 70, and 80-year-olds are more broke than they ever were. A lot of 60, 70, and 80-year-olds are zero better off than they were to even 10 years before. In fact, if you study your brain, your IQ peaks at age 14. That's a scary thought. That means smarts goes down after 14. A guy named Alfred Binet, he's the founder of the modern IQ test called the Stanford Binet. He documented that in his experience, IQ peaks at 14. Now, there's other things that get better with age. You do get some wisdom, you do blah, blah, but it's not enough. The cumulative effect of age and going through a lot. So I meet a lot of people, common myth. Tai, I've been through a lot. They say things like, Tai, you can't believe the things I've been through. Therefore, I'm going to be successful this next go around. No, you're not. If anything, it's going to make things worse. It's going to make things worse. So, I find that as you age, you build up traumas, you build up fear, you build up insecurities about past failures. So for whatever you gain as you age, whether it be wisdom, whether it be, some life experience, it's offset by negative things. It's offset by the fact that your brain, there's something called senescence, which means the aging process, which means you slowly forget things. You're not as sharp, you're not as energetic. So yes, you gain 1 or 2 steps. You go 1 or 2 steps forward as you age and gain some life experience, but you go 1 or 2 steps backwards, so there's no net gain. So if your plan is, hey, Tai, I am going to be successful because I'm getting older. No, you're not. That's no guarantee. Society is completely full of 70, 80, 90, 100-year-olds who are very poor. They're very poor. They're not doing well at all. In fact, there's more poverty among old people than in almost any demographic, okay? There's lots of people having to work at Walmart. There's lots of people on Medicaid. There's lots of people that, are homeless. So the age thing does not work at all. At all. So let me take some question and answers. What do you think? I want to know what wavelength we're on here. What do you think will be the biggest contributing factor to your education? I put mine. What do you think you need to know in terms of your knowledge base? What do we got? Let's refresh and read a few things. Vision. Okay. Discipline, Jordan said. Nick says, what's your definition of common sense? Alex Mezier said, Tai, what's your favorite hosting service to use for your website? What about Haste Makes Waste? Tai, why are you barefoot? I don't know. It's my house. So let's go through those. Good answers. Somebody said vision. So having faith and vision gets you here. Yeah, but I'm going to tell you why that is known is not enough. That's a component, but vision alone. How many people do you know who have big plans and big visions that never get it? I feel like 100% of people I meet have big plans and vision and don't get it. Like, you rarely meet somebody who, if you ask them, what was your vision and dream for your life when you were 19, they say, nothing. I had no vision. I had no dreams. Like, that's, no. What else? So I do agree it's important. Somebody said discipline. Yeah, but here's the problem with discipline. I meet people who have a tremendous amount of discipline on the wrong thing. Joel Salatin told me the worst thing in life is getting good at the wrong thing. How many people have amazing discipline and they work hard at their dead-end job? So yes, discipline's important, but it's not a foundational key. It's not foundational. So let's move on and go to somebody said learning machine analysis. So here Amy says, A, learning machine. 2, finding out what you need to know for the next steps, books and people. 3, application, actually applying what you learned. And 4, analysis. And 5, tracking results. So that's kind of, she's explaining the whole scientific theory of, hypothesizing, testing, and so on. So there's a lot of truth to that. But once again, the reason I wanted to really talk about CS, common sense, is because without it, you have a ticking time bomb that will destroy everything. So if you have discipline, it will be destroyed by lack of common sense. If you have vision, if you have hard work, if you know how to execute, if you have mentors, all of it self-destructs. And the reason I'm talking about this is because I have a lot of people who follow my stuff. I have a lot of people who read books, and I'm concerned. I am very concerned with planet Earth right now because of the lack of common sense. Somebody says humbleness. Yes, humbleness is important. And I am concerned that we're all getting cockier and cockier, and that's okay. I'm really concerned, really concerned about the lack of common sense in the world. Like, it's almost, and I'm concerned with that with the people who follow me. And the people, because people will get in my programs, they'll get in the, for example, there's a guy who got into one of my programs, started making money, a lot of money, in the social media marketing agency, making 6, almost 7-figure, and then went out and did a stupid investment in some business that the second I heard it, I was like, oh, this is a horrible idea. You just lost $100,000 or $200,000 you invested. So they had worked all year. They used my program to save up more money than they'd ever saved, save over $250,000, and then just went and blew it on some complete dumb investment somebody pitched to them. And so I'm doing this lesson because I'm very concerned that if I don't pound this into your head, that you're going to go through this program, you're going to have created success, and then it's going to self-destruct. I can't tell you. If you see my Twitter, I'm pulling up my Twitter here. Let me see. I want to read you something that I posted on Twitter. By the way, if you're not following my Twitter, I'm posting a lot more. Here it is. I posted this last night, and I said, and it was basically out of concern. I said, I can't tell you how many people have self-destructive tendencies when it comes to money and business. They turn left when they should go right. So what's the whole point of today's talk? It's this common sense talk that I'm having, and somebody said, what's your definition of common sense? You were one step ahead of me. What is common sense in terms of how I'm defining it? And the answer is relatively easy, okay? Here's my answer to you. Imagine you have a compass. So here's your compass, and it has the little pointer, okay? Your goal is north. All right, let's say that's north. And this, of course, is south. You can have all the education, all the humility, all the discipline, all the perseverance, all the vision in the world. If your compass is messed up, if something happened to this compass and it now points down, guess what happens? Instead of, you'll think you're going north. So your vision will be right, your discipline will be right, you'll be buying books, you'll be finding mentors, but you'll be doing it as you go this way. And I got a bad piece of news for you. If you're going south, how long does it take to get to this point? Let's say this was 1 mile away. 1 mile. Okay? So you're going, you think you're going that way, but you accidentally have your compass 180 degrees off. So you go south, south. The answer is you have to go all the way around the globe and come back. So it'll take an extra 24,000 miles. Versus you could have got there in 1 mile. I don't know about you, but I don't have time to go 24,000 miles in the wrong direction. Life's too short, man. You see in New York today, some people got ran over. Looks like a terrorist attack. Some dude took a Home Depot truck and was mowing people down. That's the world we live in today. You know, the world's always been dangerous, but in some ways it's accelerated because of technology. And so I don't have time to accidentally go south, have to loop around the globe. The globe's roughly 24,000 miles around to get to this spot. I'm just going 1 mile. That's my goal. Just take me 1 mile. So my definition of common sense is a person who always, if you had 100% common sense, okay, 100% of the time, you would just take the 1 mile to the goal. So yes, you need self-discipline and vision and perseverance, but you only need it for a short time. If you're going to do what almost every entrepreneur, almost every business owner I know is doing, you got an extra 24,000 miles. So it's 24,000 times longer to get what you want out of life. And that's the truth. Like if I could go back in time, I would basically just instill more common sense earlier, and everything I've accomplished now in over 10 years, I would have been able to do in probably 3 years, maybe 1 or 2. So what do we need? Let's talk practical here. Here's how you get common sense. And this is going to be tough for some of you and for all of us, really. You got to deal with your psychological problems. That's it. If you don't deal with your psychological problems, you will always go south when you should go north. $1 million education, this is it. Deal with your psychological problems. And we'll talk about what those are. Let me take some quick questions. What do we got? Gregory said, my mother had common sense and always say to me, why are you doing this? Daniel said you have to be a learning machine. What do you mean? What is the compass? Okay. Is it possible you can have a lot of common sense without experiencing things? Yes, you can gain common sense by watching other people's mistakes. A very common myth in the world is you only gain common sense by doing it yourself. That's not true. The reason humans have big brains, one of the biggest reasons we have big brains, is to be able to learn from other people's experience. For example, who here had to get run over by a car to realize you should look both ways when crossing the street? Is there anybody on this call who just couldn't get the concept? Like they were like 9 years old and their mom's like, look, big cars, metal, 2 tons, run you over, you're flat. And you were like, I can't get it. Who here had to touch a stove to realize it was hot? More people probably did that. When I was about 7 years old, my mom dropped me off at a babysitter, and there was somebody outside with a motorcycle, and they're like, I got a little ride on it, and I jumped on the motorcycle, and nobody told me that one side of the engine is hot, and I put my leg right on it. I remember it just like burnt my whole leg. So that's an example where unfortunately I had to learn the hard way. But most of the time, that's the only time, I've never fallen in a fire so far. I've never put my hand on a stove. I had that one burn was enough to instill common sense, stay away from hot things. So to be human is to have the ability to gain common sense without having to do it. So why do you and I look back at your life? Why do we make repetitively stupid decisions that sabotage our success? And I'm telling you, it is psychological problems, patterns in the brain. You were wired incorrectly. Imagine if you had a robot that was, those little vacuum cleaning robots you can buy, okay? In Japan, they have like full-on robots. Imagine if it was wired incorrectly. And instead of, vacuuming the floor, it always tried to vacuum the walls. And you grabbed it and you said, no, vacuum the floor. And so, but its wiring is off. So it thinks the floor is the walls. So you're on zzz, and it goes zzz, and just sitting there. You can't fix it unless you go deep into the robot and fix the wiring. You have to call the company, send one of your, mechanics out here, one of your AI scientists. They need to open up the brain of this thing, go in and fix it. So Dr. Helen Fisher talks about this, something called the mental or mind map. Write that down if you're taking notes. The mind map. You and I developed a map. You could call it circuitry. You could call it wiring. You could call it brain, a chip in your brain if you wanted. By the way, can I get a water real quick? And by the time you're roughly between 14, so there's different types that the wiring times in your life, the wiring is accomplished. No, that's fine. Oh yeah, see if they have the carbonated one. I love that. Yeah, leave that. Under 5 years old is one key turning point in your wiring, okay? Under 5 years old is a very formative thing. Basically, before you remember. Some scientists think even while you're in your mom's womb, while you're not yet born, you are actually learning things that wire your brain. For example, if your mother had a very traumatic marriage while she was pregnant with you, theoretically, and there's different opinions on this, but many scientists think that your mother's increased cortisol would pass on some signals to your wiring, your mental and hormonal map, okay? For sure, when you're born, 1, 2, 3, 4, before you really remember, you are taking in, if you watch a little baby, they take in everything. There's a lady that, it's interesting, she was in the news recently. She has this weird syndrome where she remembers everything. Her brain doesn't get rid of any past memories. She remembers being 1 year old. They've been studying her. She's one of the only people on the planet. And she says she remembers that all you do as a little baby is take everything in. If you watch a baby, they just basically sleep, eat, and observe. And so why? Well, because you're forming the mental map, the wiring of your brain. So if you're in, and remember, you have no control of this. Even the most psychopathic serial killer, when they were 1 year old, they were innocent. There's no criminal babies at 1 year old, right? You're basically, some people think you have some innate tendencies, but nobody's going to jail at 1 year old, okay? Because you're innocent, you're an observer, you're wiring your map. So that's a key one. Another key one happens, and there's many, I'm oversimplifying this, but another one is, like I said, by 14. By 14 is when your IQ really peaks, your brain power. So if you're in an environment where your parents read a lot before you're 14, okay, that's forming your mind map and making you more curious. Scientists, the technical term is openness to new experience. So if you are in a family that's full of life and intellectual curiosity before age 14, that will help your IQ. Now there's another key turning point, which is by age 16, which is when self-esteem is formed. And that's why I've personally administered about 10,000 psychometric tests to people. I'm not a psychologist, but I'm very interested. My mentor, Dr. David Buss, is, top 10 most cited psychologists in history. He's one of the founders of modern evolutionary psychology, professor at Harvard, now he's at University of Texas, Austin. He's done, hundreds of thousands of these tests overseen in over 60 countries. And by age 16, bullying, if you get bullied between, let's say, 10 and 16, your self-esteem pretty much forms by 16. Yes, it can go up and down later. So if you were like 20 and you were bullied, but it's not as bad because the circuitry of your self-esteem, and this is of course a rough number, but in general, the circuitry forms by age 16. Okay? Now, another key time in your life is by age 25. What happens there? Physically, if you imagine the mind is like a letter that you're sending somebody, the envelope, you know how you lick an envelope and then you seal it over and you close it, right? That's what happens to your brain physically by approximately age 25. So in terms of like learning a new language, you want to try to learn a new language. What's up, Ma?
I have to go because I'm trick-or-treating.
Who's that?
That's Jocelyn.
Jocelyn, is that a Halloween costume?
Yeah, I'm a snack.
Come stand here for a second. Jocelyn.
I'm a Snapchat filter.
Jocelyn. Say hello.
Hi.
Here, wait, come walk over here. Go over there for a second.
You should Snapchat filter her Snapchat.
Snapchat filter, my Snapchat filter.
Jocelyn, what are you?
I'm a Snapchat filter. Like the little kitty that you do the little voice changer and the glasses.
Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Everybody thinks I'm a cat. They're sorely mistaken.
If you're ever at my house, you will realize I have a lot of characters at my house. Welcome to Hollywood.
Our glasses are like twins. This is amazing.
Please, hey, can you get them to shoot that for my daily vlog? I want to have that.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Maya.
See you later. Have fun, thanks.
Jocelyn is a Snapchat filter for Halloween.
But everybody knows the ones I'm talking about, right? See you guys later.
By the way, you'll notice this call is not super formal like I text and do. I want you guys to see also like my real life. This is my real life. Always live a casual, laid back life, man. Even if you're trying to make $1 billion, enjoy your life. Common sense 101. If you try to make $1 billion, it's going to take you 20 years. You want to enjoy the 20 years. You can't just enjoy 20 years from now. Warren Buffett says, that's not common sense. He says, that's like getting married and saying you're going to save having sex until you're 60 years old. If you get married at 25, you don't want to save the good times because by the time it ain't the same when you're 65. Thank you, Zach. So age 25, your mind seals over. Things like languages, musical instruments, dialects, accents. It gets very hard to change. So here's the deal. If you are over 25 years old, or even over 5, over 14, or over 16, A lot of the mind map has been formed. And so if you're trying to make money, but the mind map is off because of things that happen to you during these formative times in your life, I got good news and I got bad news. I have good news, there's still hope. I got bad news that you better get on it, because if you don't, I can guarantee you, you won't get what you want out of life. So if you ever find a vacuum robot that's rewired incorrectly, it's never going to work. It's not like just time. Oh, it'll magically fix itself. No, what do you mean magically fix it? How will it if your car is broken, name a time in history where you had a major mechanical problem in your car and the secret was leaving it in the garage for longer and letting it age a little bit. No, there's zero hope for it. The only hope is a mechanic and some tools to fix it. So I hope that this call will be like a diagnosis for a lot of you watching. It's a reminder to myself. The most important thing in life is to fix your psychological problems and be around psychologically healthy people. The more important than making money, more important than anything you've learned in this program, I hope you will take that away from this. You gotta get there. Now, what are some of the problems that you need to fix that will throw you off? Well, we've talked a little bit about these. I'm gonna touch on some of these and I'm gonna talk on some other ones. So we have some, and there's a lot of them, but we don't have time to do a full psychological analysis of everybody on this call, and there's so many things that can go wrong. It's like a car. How many things can go wrong in the car? You can forget to put gas. The transmission can break. You can crack an axle. You can have a flat tire. You know, there's literally spark plugs. There's probably 1,000 things that can go wrong in any given year with a car, depending on the car you have. You can lose power steering can go out. The oil, the engine can seize. We can go on here forever. So, what does that mean? That means it's a bitch to keep yourself psychologically healthy. So I want to go over just some of the most common things that I guarantee you 99% of us on this call have to deal with and fix in ourselves. So a common one is narcissism. I've talked about this before on one of these calls. Machiavellianism, very big problem in the world. This Machiavellian is one of the biggest ones that no one talks about. Psychotic is not quite as big of a deal. Sorry, spelled it wrong. Psychotic. Anxious is a big one. Big one. Lack of diligence is a huge problem. Your wiring is messed up on diligence, which conscientiousness is a huge issue in the world now. These are not necessarily considered psychological illnesses or anything, but these are what I call rewiring or wiring problems. So let's just go through, and we'll add more on here. I'm not going to talk too much about psychotic. This one's very difficult. There's probably a few people on here who have psychotic tendencies. You can take my quiz, tailopez.com/quiz, if you want to learn more about some of these, but we'll talk about them right now. So I'm going to talk about these two. Let's start here with anxiety. Anxiety is a massive problem in the world. It depends what statistic you read, but in the United States, between 15 and 30% of all adults have real anxiety issues to the point that doctors are prescribing medicine. So that means if we stay by that statistic, about 1 in 4 of you watching, this is a wiring issue that who cares if you launch a business? But if you're anxious all the time, your life's gonna be shit. Money will do nothing for that. I promise you, nothing. I was just in the last month with a guy who has massive amount of money, okay? I'm talking billions in cash in the bank right now. If you go to his bank account, it has over $1,000 million in it, okay? And he has wiring issues, and he's realized it. He's like, I can't fix it. And it's driving him crazy. Like you can see on his face that he's frustrated. And he has $1,000 million. That's all I need to know. Common sense. If damn money fixed it, this guy would have fixed it long ago. Very few people. He actually has more than $1 billion. He has multiple billions, but I was just rounding it down. So, if you have anxiety, let's just talk about, I'm not a psychologist, so some of you, my answer for common sense is you have to get help, man. You just have to. And if you're too proud to realize that you might need to hire a mechanic to go into your brain and fix some of the wires, you're an idiot, you know? I meet people that are like, no, man, well, then to me, you're an idiot. And you can't fix stupid, by the way. Not that kind of stupid. So please, for the love of God, I hope that's not you. Like, be humble. If you're so proud, just do it in secret. Secretly find a therapist. But I'll give you a few practical things that have helped me with anxiety. One of them is writing out my fears. I have no idea why this works, but every time something's anxious, I write it out and I say something like, I love how blankety blank turned out. So if I'm anxious about a business deal, I'll just write it out. It's almost, for those of you who are religious, for those of you who are spiritual, for those of you who are Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever religion you are, prayer is one of the most ancient concepts in life. And so if you're an atheist and you don't believe in God, you might be throwing out the concept of prayer. But in my experience, now people have different conceptions of what prayer is. To a Catholic person, it's, kneeling and doing the sign of the cross and saying a certain formulaic thing, and that's fine if you're a Catholic. A lot of people are. If you're a more traditional Christian, you pray to God about the things that are in your life. If you're Muslim, you pray 5 times. Is it 5 or 6 times a day? I forget. 3? How often do Muslims pray? Look it up. Isn't it 5? I don't know. But I know Muslims pray a lot. But for me, writing it out is that concept. And I promise you, 5 times a day, I promise you, try this. If you're a highly anxious person, write out your fear. I keep an app. I use Evernote. And I literally write out, and it has helped me more than anything, single thing. And I'm not even a highly anxious person, so the fact that it's helped me, it means it'll help you even more. Now, there are some people, I'm not naive, that have serious wiring issues that need medication. So I'm not saying this is the only thing to do. But even if you take medication, you can still do this. Writing out your fears. The second thing, and this is important. Don't hang out with anxious people. And this is the biggest, you ever heard the saying, birds of a feather flock together? Well, that's not common sense. I notice my friends who are super overweight, they hang out with other people who are super overweight. I'm like, what? And they don't want to be super overweight. So I'm like, let me get this straight. You're overweight because this one particular friend I'm thinking of, he just eats crappy. It's not a gland problem. The dude eats a box of donuts. He eats a cake, okay? And then he hangs out with other people who reinforce that belief and also eat cake. And so there's no constructive criticism or constructive peer pressure. And common sense, if you don't think peer pressure matters, you also know nothing about planet Earth. There's one of my favorite books by Sigmund Freud, the founder of modern psychology, even though some of his theories, of course, have been disproven, like anything that's 100 years old has been disproven, but he's a very smart guy. In fact, I think Sigmund Freud, of all books I've ever read, he's the smartest guy I've ever read. He's an immensely, or was an immensely intelligent person. And he has a book, I'll pull it up here on my iBooks, and it's called, it's such an interesting title. No, it's one of my favorite book is Civilization of Discontents, but he has another book. It's called Group Psychology and the Analysis of the Ego. Group psychology, and he says basically all the rules that apply to individuals, that you can throw them out the window when there's a group. That's why a mob, if you do something wrong, let's say if you did something wrong in the 1800s, and they put you in jail, and one dude started telling his friends, Zach did something wrong, and 50 people showed up outside of that jail, they might burn the jail down, even though any one individual wouldn't do it. But groups turn into mobs. And so you can either harness the mob for the positive, or it'll kill you. And so if you're an anxious person, in fact, for all of these, if you have issues with any of these, almost everybody hangs out with somebody who reinforces their idiotic beliefs. I've done the same thing. For the love of God, if you have any semblance of common sense, please tell me you will vow to yourself to stop doing that. And that means you got to hang out with people who make you uncomfortable. If you're super overweight and you hang out with somebody with a six-pack, they constantly hit you between the eyes without even meaning of like, I should look like them, I should look like, and some people can't handle that. They're too weak-willed. So they go, oh, I'm going to retreat and only hang out with people who don't make me feel bad about myself. But it's not really making you feel bad about yourself. It's more positive reinforcement of what you should look like. Nobody has to be obese. Very few people. 99% of obese people, or 90% of obese people, it's a behavioral issue. It's a wiring issue. Maybe at a very young age, they somehow begin to associate food with, they call it comfort food. So if you're anxious, you got to fix this. All the money, you could go through this program and figure out how to make $1 trillion and have the worst life on planet Earth if you have massive anxiety. And when I do these psychology tests on people, I'm blown away. Literally, blown away. Let me pull up this test I did on somebody. I'm not going to say their name. But what's that? I'm not going to say who it is, but their initials are Zach Cookman. No, this isn't Zach. But on a 1 to 100 scale, they had an 89 of anxiety. And I asked them, I was like, are you anxious? Because it was funny. Exterior, I couldn't tell. And they said to me, man, I'm anxious all the time. 89 out of 100. 89. That is like one of the worst lives I've ever heard. So I know that there's people on this call that are 100s, 90s, 70s, 60s. You want your anxiety on there's a test called the Hexaco score. You want your anxiety, in my opinion, to be under 50. So 50 is like kind of normal. It's the median. You don't want your anxiety, by the way, to be at 0. Why? Because people who have no anxiety get run over by cars. Okay? That's been actually proven. People who have too much optimism die younger than people who have slight pessimism. So I would say you want to be between 40 and 60. Okay? Because then you have enough anxiety that it serves its functional evolutionary purpose, biological purpose, which is to basically alert you to problems. If you have 0 anxiety, you'll be like, oh, everything's perfect. I have no money. My life sucks, but I don't care. And then you'll die of starvation, so to speak. Okay? So any questions on this? This is just 2 practical things. By the way, we could do a 8-hour talk on anxiety, but I don't want to keep you guys here. Some of you don't have issues, so I want to keep moving. But any questions on anxiety? Okay, Cynthia says for the Hexaco score, her anxiety is low, but fearfulness score is high. Fearfulness is not so bad. So Hexaco divides your personality into 26 facets, 26 traits, 5 main traits: humility, emotionality, extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness. Sorry, and there's a 6th one, openness to new experience. The big 5 was 5. Hexaco added the H. So within emotionality, they divide it into four. Fearfulness, anxiety, dependence, and sentimentality. So we can have a long talk. What I will tell you is having high fearfulness. Fearfulness is pretty much in this test defined as fear of physical pain. It's fine if you have a high fearfulness. All it means is you're not gonna hang glide, bungee jump, or scuba dive in caves. So if I had a brother or something and I saw he had high fearfulness, it wouldn't freak me out. It means he's gonna be more safe. He'll look both ways, maybe too much. Like if you don't want your fearfulness to be 95. If it's 95, you should probably face some of your fears and go parasailing or bungee jumping just to face them. There's something called exposure therapy, which somewhat works. Exposure, so if you're afraid of snakes, lock yourself in a closet with snakes, and after 2 days, snakes will be your best friend. But Cynthia, I'm not so worried about fearfulness in my experience. It's not as bad. High anxiety is a nightmare. Anxiety is associated with neuroticism, with always thinking, your mind racing all the time of like, they didn't text me back. Like, let's say you have high anxiety in a relationship. You meet a girl, you like her, you text her. She doesn't text you back within an hour, and you're like, oh, well, she doesn't like me. If you have high anxiety, you want to become an entrepreneur, and you're like, okay, I'm going to quit my job and this. And an anxious person will be like, but what happens if my new company, and you like literally you melt down. That's what high anxiety, that's much worse than a high fearfulness person who just goes, ooh, I don't want to go 90 miles an hour on a motorcycle. Like, it's not so bad, okay? You don't want it too high, but. Alexandra, what about thinking critically? So, Alexandrina, the reason I'm talking today about psychological issues is people think they think critically, but actually the mind, there's a great book on this called Descartes' Error. And Descartes, basically it's saying it's an error to think that humans are logical. The real way things work, just look at politics. Do you think there's a lot of smart people in Washington, D.C., and in Berlin, and in London, and in Sydney, where the capital, or actually Sydney is not the capital of Australia. It's near Melbourne. What is the damn capital of Australia? Isn't it? No, it's not Sydney. Sydney's the biggest city. It's the one in the south. Look up the capital. I should know. It's not. It's a boring city in Australia. It's kind of like in Brazil. They made this city called Brasilia. What?
Canberra.
Yeah, Canberra. But what's the city in there? Anyway, not important. But thinking critically, if that's all it took to have common sense, then every high IQ person would be doing very well financially. And trust me, when it comes to money and common sense, I have found very little relationship between high IQs. I know people with not very high IQs that make way more money than geniuses. And I'll tell you why. A lot of high IQ people have very high anxiety because their brain races. That's why Albert Einstein says he basically hardly knows any hyper intelligent, happy people. So that's kind of a sad commentary from a very smart man. He didn't say there's none, he just says it's because people aren't dealing with their psychological issues. I read about research, Jerome says that joining a group, you take the IQ of a group, and that's the IQ of a 13-year-old. Yeah, sometimes the masses make horrible mistakes. Somebody said, thanks, Tai, I love you for doing this. JS says you brought to mind a poem by Richard Corey on prayer. Litany, yeah. Well, would writing out your fears just reaffirm the thoughts into your subconscious? No, I don't find. So if you're thinking, Tai, I'm not going to write out my fears because that's going to make them happen. Just test it. In my experience, it doesn't do that at all. But try it for yourself. Another great app to help with feelings is called Mood Notes. Yeah. Okay, next thing. Yeah, trouble focusing also comes from anxiety. Now, let's talk about this one. So this is the most common stumbling block in somebody having common sense. We're talking about $1 million education, and I'm taking it. To make $1 million does not take a college degree. It's okay if you have a college degree. I'm not anti-college, but I'm anti-thinking that college is an automatic financial success ticket. It's not anymore. It was in 1955 or 62, but it's not in 2017. So when I say $1 million education, people are surprised when I bring it to educating yourself about feelings and psychology, because that's not a common thing. But you're in my program. I'm trying to tell you what I wish people had told me at 18. This is the most common issue. Next one, this one is a biatch. Machiavellianism. This is based on I think it was in the 1600s. There was a book about the Prince Machiavelli. There's a modern day book about this by a guy who wrote, The 48 Laws of Power. Is a very Machiavellian book. It's basically how to manipulate people and stuff like that. It's Robert Greene wrote it. The problem with Machiavellianism is cunning, sneakiness, cynicism about the world. If you go on Twitter, Twitter's a very Machiavellian forum. Twitter is basically people posting funny things, people posting sports, or people posting Machiavellian things, whether they be scandals, whether they be negative, like it's people fighting with each other. It's a very without a doubt, Twitter, in my mind, is the most Machiavellian of all social media platforms. And so I use Twitter, but be careful or Twitter will use you. And I would guess that on this call, this is the anxiety and Machiavellianism. If you can fix these two things, almost everybody here, you will be on a faster track, a very fast track to having common sense, which is the overarching above intelligence, which is overarching above you making whatever your financial goal is. So what happens with Machiavellianism? For those of you who were bullied, whether it be by kids, who had traumatic parents or family up until age 18, so your parents went through a horrible divorce, you had a step parent who was mean or abusive, or a regular parent that was mean and abusive, you probably have developed Machiavellian traits. Remember how I said a baby is like a blank slate? It's not completely true. Things like narcissism and being psychotic, you actually inherit in your DNA from parents. Not all of it, but good parents, normal parents, can give birth to serial killers. If you look at Jeffrey Dahmer, there's an interview of his parents, and he's like, I had a totally normal upbringing. His dad, I think, was a CPA. I mean, psychotic is somewhat genetic, not 100%. So is narcissism, somewhat. It's also environmental. But Machiavellianism, scientists have found, is basically 100% environmental. No one would be and that's why I lived with the Amish for 2.5 years. I lived on a small farm for almost 10 years of my life. And when you're in a small town and a small farm, everybody's nice. It's amazing. And that's because it's an environment that's much more stable and healthy, in my experience. The Amish have zero divorce. There's no such thing as a divorced Amish couple. In their religion, they don't allow divorce. And also in their religion, they have really great families. I mean, the happiest kids you've ever seen. The least cynical people on the planet. They have almost an innocence to them that you lose in the modern world. Well, a lot of people go, well, screw them before they screw you. That's a very Machiavellian concept. If you answer if you have a lot of secrets, people with lots of secrets that's a very Machiavellian trait. It's all related somewhat to manipulating and defending yourself. So for anybody, and I would say about 70% of people here had a traumatic upbringing, whether it be their parents, family, it could be a death in the family. It depends. People are sensitive in different ways. So for some people, it can be one time your parents yelling at you in formative years can have major emotional scarring. If you think I'm overreacting, you've never raised and trained animals. I used to train dogs, border collies. They're the highest IQ, the most intelligent dog on the planet. You can ruin a dog if you get a dog training book. And this is dogs. They're not even as sensitive as humans, because humans have more active IQs. A border collie can be ruined in one day. Literally to the point that a trainer will go, I give up on this dog. I'm not even going to ever try to train it. They literally called it ruining a dog. It can be as simple, for example, if you're training the dog to herd sheep and you put a little puppy who's too small yet to be training, and you put them in with big sheep and the sheep turn around and knock the little puppy over, lifetime of fear that can almost never be erased. So if you're a good dog trainer, you protect your little puppy, and what you do is you have them herd little ducks, because ducks don't fight back. So the little puppy builds like confidence, like when I chase something. And then when the puppy's old enough and a full-grown dog, if a sheep turns around and hits it, it doesn't matter, because the wiring of self-esteem for the dog is already locked in. Because none of what I'm talking about is taught to any parent on planet Earth. Zero, okay? This is how messed up the world is. Zero training on this in schools. Zero training on parents. Zero. The news talks about all the tragedies in the world. There's one main tragedy happening right now. Crappy parents raising crappy kids. And the parents might mean well, but they never were taught what it meant to be a good parent. And so that's why I say probably 95% of people on this call are not as successful as they could be, because they have psychological hindrances, psychological compass turning them the wrong way every time they should be making a good decision. They don't. So I hope that, now, how do you deal with Machiavellianism? This one, the good news is, because it's environmental, it's more fixable than some of the other problems. Anxiety is also somewhat genetic. So if you have super anxious parents, you're more likely. But Machiavellian is environmental, which sucks, but the good upside is, if it was environmentally formed, it can be environmentally undone. I'm just going to tell you this. Here's my answer. If you look for the darkness in this world, you will always find it. So it's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. For those of you who go, life sucks and then you die, that you have created your truth. You have created the most self-fulfilling prophecy. It's kind of like if you say, I will always be poor. Well, money doesn't come to people by magic. So if you cut off all opportunities by saying, you'll always be poor, you will always be poor. You will always be poor. So it's the same with Machiavellian. If you say to yourself, life sucks, and that the world, everybody's out to get you, and you must hide, and da-da-da-da-da, you will attract. I'm not talking about some magic voodoo stuff. I'm talking, there's hardcore science on this. Read the H Factor of Personality by one of the most renowned scientists of our day when it comes to personality. He wrote that book, I think, in 2000 or 2001. It's like a Bible of psychology. It's used at Harvard. It's used everywhere. And he says, almost always people attract people of similar personality flaws. Shitty people flock together, my friend. So if you are a shitty person and you believe the world's shitty, and then you always have crappy people around you every single day, that reinforces your belief that everybody's crappy, and you just go down a spiral that never ends, and you die unsuccessful and unfocused. I have found, it's funny, you would think the richest, most powerful people in the world you meet would be ultra cynical, because everybody's out to get their money and they had to fight to get what they want. But in my experience, even the most battle-hardened entrepreneur at the highest level still has a level of innocence to them. It's very interesting. The people that have zero innocence to them are always the people who have the worst lives. Not the worst lives, who started out okay, but eventually they get the worst lives, but they weren't on a track to go anywhere. You would think like the process of making $100 million would turn you into just hating people. It's not quite like that. In fact, some of the nicest people I ever meet, definitely, without a doubt, entrepreneurs who make up 200 grand a year are way more annoying to be around than entrepreneurs who make 200 million a year. I don't know why that is. They're not as nice. By the way, I'm gonna say something controversial. Some countries produce tremendously Machiavellian people. Okay? So some of your psychological ailments come from your culture. From in my experience, Eastern European people and Middle Eastern people and some Asian countries, their culture produces more Machiavellian. I don't know why. It's not a skin thing or something. So nobody, please don't take these words and say, oh, Tai is saying, you know, this people. I told you, it's not genetic. It's not genetic. That means it's not racism. But people who grow up in, trust me, if you grew up in the last 50 years in Eastern Bloc, Ukraine, Albania, Iraq, Syria, these countries have had tremendous trauma. And I told you, Machiavellianism comes from trauma. Now, in Asia, they actually have a word for it. I can't say it in Japanese, but it basically means hide yourself. Don't show people your true self. So they become very Machiavellian. There's other, so Americans are a little less Machiavellian. Americans have other problems, in my experience, and I'm overgeneralizing, but I find Americans to be more narcissistic. So Americans are like, yeah, I'm awesome, I'm beautiful. You meet some American girls and it's just like, they're like, I'm the most beautiful thing in the world. And you're like, you are not even pretty. Like, no offense, you don't have to be pretty. I'm just saying, narcissism is an unrealistic expectation, unrealistic vision of who you really are. So I find Americans to be more narcissistic, but less Machiavellian. But there's a crap load of Machiavellian people in America, don't get me wrong. So psychotic, I'm not going to talk too much. So the solution for Machiavellianism is, for the most part, you reverse engineer what brought you to that negative place. Can you put the number up? What brought you to the negative place is your environment, a negative environment. So the way to become more innocent, more happy about the world, less cynical, is to be around the opposite of whatever you grew up with. So if you grew up around horrific trauma, please don't hang out with only people who had horrific trauma. Please find the jolly people in life. And this is the simplest thing in the world. The opposite of Machiavellian is jolly, in my experience. Okay? Like, if you want just the simplest litmus test, how many of your friends are just jolly people? By jolly, I mean they don't take themselves very serious. They're very hard to offend. They're very very hard to anger. They're not ranting and raving about the Illuminati and about Donald Trump nonstop. Now, it's okay to be politically active, but you and I are only going to do so much. If you spend 24/7 of your life mad at things that you can't control, AKA the Federal Reserve, the da-da-da-da. I mean, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. By the way, if you look at people who leave negative comments on YouTube, Psychology Today or psychology.com did a huge extensive study they just completed. People who leave negative comments on social media almost always are Machiavellian and psychotic. So if you have your Facebook page and you post something positive in your life, like, oh, I just got a new car, or, oh, you know, I got a promotion, or something about your life getting better, anybody who posts negative, I don't care if it's your mom, your brother, your cousin, your best friend, cut them out of your life as quickly as you can. Now, you can't always do it overnight, but keep your distance. They're not jolly. Jolly people don't do that. If you're on a date with somebody and they're rude to the waiter, a jolly person isn't rude to the waiter. You know, now some people go, Tai, isn't this naive? Maybe, but give me paradise on earth if I'm innocent and naive, and you can go take the crappy life. Be my guest. But Tai, who will hang out? Are you saying desert all the crappy people? Well, what will they do? I don't know, they'll all hang out with each other. You can't solve everything. Joel Salatin used to tell me, pick your battles. Nobody here is going to solve all the world's problems. So, don't worry about it. Find the jolly people, make them your closest friends, and you'll have a great life. Any alternative to that, you are just the sucker for massive pain, and it's going to destroy. You're going to have the world's worst business partners who are going to steal money because Machiavellian people are secretive, they're cunning, they will cut you out when they can, if they can take control. I have a buddy who has a huge business empire. He's based on the East Coast. He had a business and he needed more bank accounts because he has so many in his name. So he went to one of his old close friends. He said, dude, I got a new company. Can I open a bank account in your name? And I'll give you like $3,000 a month for doing nothing. This isn't illegal, by the way. You can do this legally. It's not anything shady. And he just wanted to, I forget, there was another reason, but he said, I'll pay you $3,000 a month, and then I'll just have a bank account in your name, and I'll pull the money out once a week. And you know, all the money goes to me because it's my business and you don't do any work. You just get a free $3,000 a month. Pretty good deal, right? Literally, the guy did nothing but one time sign his name on a bank account. But my friend doesn't know about reading people, even though he's a successful entrepreneur. So his friend who signed the paperwork to get the $3,000 a month was very Machiavellian. So guess what happened one week? My friend went to sweep the money out into his bank account, and it wasn't there. So he calls up his buddy. Yo, man, there was I think it was $1 or $2 million. Hey, I went to sweep the money out like I always do every Friday, and there was $0 in it instead of the normal $1 million that should be in there. No answer from his friend. This just happened like 2 months ago. No answer from his friend, no answer from his friend, no answer from his friend. Finally, the friend answers a letter from a lawyer saying, you are hereby informed that all that money is ours. And my friend was like, what? That guy's in the letter said, my friend does all the work for the company. My client does all the work for the company, and that's why he's entitled to the $1 or $2 million. My buddy goes, BS. He doesn't know, he's never worked a day in his life. He just opened the bank account. There's an example. You hang out with Machiavellian people, they will take $1 million from you and then get a lawyer to sue you. And my friend ended up having to give him the $1 million because the legal fees, it would have taken him 3 years and approximately $400,000 in legal fees to try to win back his $1 million. And guess what my friend's lawyer told him? Dude, by the time we win this thing in 3 years, the guy's gonna have spent all the $1 million or moved it out of the country. You'll win the lawsuit and the guy will just declare bankruptcy, but he'll secretly have the money in a Swiss bank account or something, or in cash or something, and you'll get nothing. So my friend had to drop the case. I just walk, and now my friend makes about $6 million a month, so he's okay, but it's the principle that one of his closest friends, this was a childhood friend or a teenage friend or whatever, and now they're adults, had just ripped him off. Ruth knew it. The guy knew he didn't do it. The friend didn't even know how to do the business, and he just stole $1 or $2 million. So for those of you who don't get what I'm saying, now what I told my friend, I said, dude, was it common sense to allow that to happen? And my friend realized no. But my friend didn't understand the psychological problems. And part of what I'm talking about this today is not only to fix your own psychological problems so that your compass points you in the direction of success and money, but so that also, and this is all more important, you can read these traits in other people. If you can't read these traits in other people, what happened to my friend, do you know how often that happens in business, that someone steals from you one way or another? 80% of the time. Okay. Michael says, I am a jolly person, always viewing the positive things. If my girlfriend has high Machiavellian traits, her friend, does that matter? For those of you dating high Machiavellian people, I'm telling you this in all honesty, I have tremendous pity for you, because you're about to have a horrible life. So that's my answer. So here's what I would do. Because people say, oh, that's so cruel. I don't want to give up on somebody. You don't have to give up on them. Stop dating them and wish them the best. And if you really want to help them, pay for a psychologist, let them go fix themselves. And then a couple of years from now, if they're great, you can come back and date them and marry them. Don't do it. It won't end well. Don't do it. It won't. They're not going to change in the relationship. Okay, just please. How many people on planet Earth have said, oh, this horrible person is going to change? If you're playing poker, or let's say you're playing, I've played blackjack. I doubled my money the other day playing blackjack. It wasn't much money. I only put $200 down. But 2 hours later, I had $400, which I wish I'd put down 200 grand or 2 million, and then I would have had 4 million. But I didn't. I don't like blackjack that much. And usually you lose. But the interesting thing about blackjack is if they deal you your cards, and let's say your cards are an 8 and a jack. Is there any time in history that as you just sit there, the jack turns into an ace? No. It doesn't happen. So if you're sitting there in a relationship with somebody, dating or business partner, and they're really a 2, like they're not that valuable, or they have mental problems, and you're expecting them to turn into an ace, I have a better plan for you. Fold, or in case of blackjack, just you're going to lose that hand, move on and get a new hand. It's a better strategy, man. If you're playing poker, fold. If you have a crappy hand and there's a lot of people at the table and you think betting some money and trying to bluff is going to get you there, maybe once in a while, but if there's enough people, you probably won't bluff 8 people. Maybe if you're playing head to head, but you're about to lose a lot of money. And so, yeah, that's my answer. Hopefully your girlfriend's not listening. She'll be mad at me. Rohim said, this talk is fucking awesome. Ari Palos, Tai, how do you recover from bullying in your formative period? Very hard, but the best answer, think of it this way. If you had a friend who's alcoholic, and they started drinking at 12, and by 22, they were a full-blown alcoholic, and they lost everything and ruined everything, and then finally they woke up one day and realized their life is a disaster. And so they go to Alcoholics Anonymous. They go through the 12-step program. The first one is admit, that you have a problem and that there's a power greater than you that can help you. And you go through all the 12 steps. My dad was an alcoholic. It's probably why I don't drink much. So this is what I recommend. This is what that person has to do. One of the rules is you can never go to a bar again, right? Because you're susceptible. So some of you, if you grew up with bullying and Machiavellian, you're hanging out with other like-minded people. It's like hanging out in the bar. You're not allowed to do that if you want to solve the problem. Okay? You're not allowed to do that. You must completely control your environment at all times. And that's why I gave you this simple answer. If you surround yourself with jolly people, over time, you will begin to fight off your negative tendencies. In the same way, if you're alcoholic, if you always hang out with people who don't give a crap at all about alcohol, they have no alcohol in their house, they rarely drink, you're not going to be tempted. You're not going to express that negative alcoholism that you have a tendency towards. So that's the answer. You must be more vigilant on your environment. Reagan Lee, what do you think about keeping your haters in order to better yourself? It's dangerous. That's like saying, yes, put it this way. You don't need to purposely try to attract haters. They'll come. So try to get rid of all haters, knowing that you'll always miss a few of them. And those few are enough. Those few are enough. Omar Romero says, Tai, what do you think about people from South America? So South America is a very interesting one. Like I said, it's not great to generalize. I will tell you this Eastern European thing is not me generalizing. I've tested a tremendous amount of people from Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe has been a traumatic place to live, literally, for over 500 years. And so the culture has an accumulated trauma of about 500 years. Any country that one of their main rulers' name was Ivan the Terrible, in the 1500s, they had a ruler called Ivan the Terrible. Now, technically, the definition of the terrible has been mistranslated. It means more like Ivan the Powerful. But trust me, the dude was pretty terrible, okay? They had a man not too long ago who was the leader of their country for a long time. His name was Stalin. And I think Stalin was roughly in massive power for a while, but at least, I think he came to power in the 30s. And he died, I think, in 1955, if I remember right. Sometime in the 1950s. Look up when Stalin died. So for 20 years, the man basically murdered between 30 and 50 million of his own people. 53. See? I kind of remember history. Stalin was a monster, dude. He was a complicated man. Russians sometimes defend him. But come on. The dude basically killed his own son. He used to put quotas on cities. So he would tell people, in this town, 5,000 people must die for treason. And the leaders would be like, but we can't find 5,000 people who committed treason. He'd be like, I don't care. He goes, just kill extra people, and that way we'll be sure to find all the treasonous people. I mean, that, and then you had another guy named Mao Zedong in China who's responsible for the death of 60 to 100 million people. So that's why I said Asia is a complicated country. Now, I'm not saying America's perfect politically, but there is no American president who killed 50 to 100 million people. Zero, okay? Now, there's been some horrific American presidents. There's been some real horrific, I mean, America had slavery, which was responsible for 50 million people, but there was no one person doing it in power. There was no one president who was responsible for the slave trade. They should have stopped the slave trade much earlier. It took until 1864, I think, or something, when the Emancipation Proclamation came. But it's different. It's not top down like it is in Eastern Europe, the Ukraine. I mean, it's a nightmare. So that's why I said, I'm not trying to overgeneralize, but culture affects us. And if you don't think culture, which is a national environment, affects you, you also know nothing about psychology. You think if you had grown up in Sweden, you'll be exactly like if you had grown up in Vietnam through the Vietnam War? No, Vietnam War was another horrible thing. And America played a part in that, but it was also communism. It was a nightmare. People who came back from the Vietnam War, soldiers, never recovered from it because of the trauma that they went through. Not just Machiavellianism. That causes other things that I don't have on this board, PTSD and all this stuff. So again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm a businessman. But to be a successful businessman, I've learned I must master psychology. If you want to master marketing, you have to understand these traits. A lot of your audience that's watching your ads is anxious, narcissistic, Machiavellian. They lack diligence. Some are psychotic, and a lot of them are sloppy and lack conscientiousness. So what do I think people have for South America? South America is very diverse, but also has a lot of nightmare stuff. You know, look at Venezuela right now. But it's hard to generalize. Mexico is a very traumatic country right now. You know that something like, how many people have been murdered? Is it 100,000 people have been murdered in Mexico in the last 10 years? Well, I mean, Chicago's not great either, but Shane says, I agree with you, Ty. I didn't know about Asian culture until I left the U.S. for more than 10 years. Someone says, cool, I was raised in Germany, says the Albanian guy in Germany. Yeah, Albania, complicated country. Anybody from out, if you don't think countries differ, go visit Albania. I dare you. Albania is 70% of the GDP of Albania. The money they make in the country is from criminal activity. Drug running, human trafficking, guns, drugs. I mean, Albania. One thing I've learned, if you meet an Albanian person, leave them alone because you might disappear from planet Earth. All you guys, do not date an Albanian girl and cheat on her. Her brothers may chop you in pieces. Not really, but go see that. What was that movie that was out where there were the gun runners that came out recently? It's with Jonah Hill when he takes the machine gun and shoots it. War Dogs. In War Dogs, this is a true story of a gun runner guy in America, but he went to Albania to get his guns. And just watch what happened to him when he went to Albania. Albania is a country you do not mess around with. Certain countries don't go mess. I've been in 51 countries. I was in Colombia when Colombia was in some of the more rough parts. It's a little bit safer now. It used to be a little less safe. Places like Kenya, Nairobi, these are very dangerous places. In fact, I was with a captain of a boat, this Polish captain. He'd been basically to every port city in the world. And we were in Colombia and on his ship, and we wanted to get off. And he said, listen to me, Tai, if you get off this boat, I 100% promise you'll either be robbed or kidnapped. He goes, there's zero chance. And he says, I've been telling my sailors this for years. They get off the boat. He's like, they come back naked because they get held up at gunpoint and they want to make sure you not have any money hidden. So they just say, take off all your clothes. He's like 100% of the time. He said, you go to some places like Nairobi, Kenya, or some Lagos, Nigeria. These are dangerous places. So culture is real, man. Go to Syria, Aleppo, and stuff like this. Khalid says, I'm from the Middle East, and from tons of experience, I can say that Tai actually has a great point. Tai, your Sherp is dope. Dolce. This is, I think Paul. Oh, no, this is Top Man. Millie Roman. Law of attraction. You are your thoughts. Lily, I'm going to argue with you for a second. I believe the law of attraction is valid, but it's been completely manipulated. I do not believe that the way to become rich is just write down on a piece of paper, I will be rich. I will be rich. I mean, you can do it. It's probably not going to hurt, but it will have much less effect than you think. So here's in my experience, and I could be wrong, I'll tell you where I know the law of attraction is 100% true. You attract the type of people with a similar psychology as you. You repel people with different psychology. So if you are a massively anxious person, you will attract other anxious people because they will find a lot in common. Commonality is one of the most powerful traits in friendships, commonality. And all the really chill, normal people are going to be like, get this person away from me. They are weird. So the real law of attraction is that when you're poor, you're going to mostly hang out with poor people. When you're anxious, when you're Machiavellian, when you're narcissistic. Narcissism is so correlated. A narcissist love each other. They see, of course, they meet this person that goes, love at first sight. Yeah, love at first sight because you're in love in yourself, man. So Herman said, fantastic insight. Can you recommend a good money or fear of success psychologist in the LA area? So Gregory, the sabotage you will make with money will not come for the most. So I hear people saying, Tai, people are afraid of success and money. I think that's not really how it works. So what they're saying is like, you would have $1 million, but you were on your way to making $1 million, and then you got afraid of it. Is that true? If I handed you $1,000 and said there's more where that comes from, you'd be like, oh, I'm afraid. No, you wouldn't. You would show up at my door. Look, if I hand out $100,000 at my door for Halloween to trick-or-treaters, you don't think they're going to come back? They're going to go, oh, I'm afraid of success and money. Run. No, they're not. That's not how life works. I think what they're trying to say is what I've been telling you today. You don't get the money because of other psychological problems. It's not fear of money, dude. If I wired you $1 million today, would you wire it back and be like, dude, I saw it and I just freaked out and I was like, get this away from me. What's your PayPal, Tai? I'm wiring you this. I'm sending you this $1 million. I'm freaked out right now. Dude, look at me. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of money. I'm afraid of success. Come on. Common sense. That's not how it works. What could happen is I tell somebody I'm going to wire them $1 million, and they're Machiavellian, so they're cynical, and they're like, fuck you, and they don't realize like I actually was calling from the lottery. If you think that's not true, I'm going to give you a prime example. When I started giving out pay it forward things in the last 1 or 2 years, okay? I've given out roughly over $500,000 worth of free cars. I can't tell you, there was a girl, this is a true story. She won the free car and she my assistant texted her, like, you got a call. Like, she wouldn't believe it. We finally moved on from her. And I understand, like, there's a lot of scams out there, but we weren't asking her to send us. You know, there's scams where it's like, you've won a car. Please send us $1,000 to initiate the transfer of the car to you. We weren't doing that. We were like, hey, you won the car. Ty wants to fly you out to LA, and like, you'll go to the car dealership and he'll sign the paperwork and you get a car. We'll send you the ticket. No money required. And they're like, no, I don't believe it. And we're like, we'll FaceTime you so you can see it's Ty. No. So finally I told him, if you block your blessing enough, you'll get your wish. We moved on. Some people, I did that publicly and people were like, that's so mean. No, I don't want, do you think I want that person around me? You think I want to I don't want to spend 5 minutes with somebody so Machiavellian. It's okay to not be naive. So I think that's what people mean by the fear of success. It is not the actual physical, tangible money that scares people. It's past life traumas that push you away from quote unquote blessings. That's why there's this old saying in black churches, don't block your blessing. And the first time I heard that, I was like, what the hell? And then I realized we block our blessing psychologically. It's not direct money blocking, okay? So you don't need a book on fear of money or success. You need a book and learning and maybe a therapist or whatever on getting rid of these major traits. Let me go through these. So diligence, lack of diligence would be basically you're not a hard worker. You give up really easy. That is also a mind map. Maybe you had a parent who always quit their job or always gave up when the going got, so you got that mental map. You have to fix laziness. That's a psychological issue. And one thing I learned at like the Amish or living on a farm is you're not born. Kids are born loving work, man. They love it. If you have a 3-year-old kid and you're washing the dishes and you go, do you want to wash the dishes with me? Kids are like, yeah, they'll go wash the dish. They want to do what the adults are doing. It's only society that trains us to not want to participate. If you don't believe me, hang out with an innocent, with a family with an innocent kid, 5 years old. When the chores come or the dishes come, go wash the dishes and see, and then say to the kid, hey, you want to help? They think it's fascinating. So diligence is something that society and traumas and life and a mind map messed up. And you're going to need some diligence to make money. So there you will sabotage there. Conscientiousness is the ability to be organized, man. Some people are just no organized. They wake up in the day, everything's scattered. They can't make a plan. They can't stick with it. They don't double check their work. They're just sloppy, unorganized people. That will sabotage your success. And believe it or not, that's a mind map. If you grow up with more organized parents, look at Asian, this is something that Asians do very well, environmentally. If you go to Japan, people are much more conscientious. It's a very clean country, okay? There's other countries, I was in South America, I won't say which country, because I don't want to offend anybody when I say something negative, but it was just dirty. Like, this is a true story, okay. I go to South America, to a specific country. Not going to say which one. I don't want to offend anybody. I go to my friend's wedding. Afterwards, the next day or two, they did a little party at their house to continue the festivities. It was fun. So we go there. I walk up to the house. There's a yard, and their neighbor was there. And you know, like in South America, in some countries, they like have trash. Like people just throw out, like they eat McDonald's and throw it on the ground. This person had trash in their own front yard. Now, how sloppy, I understand you're driving in a car, you don't care about the environment, you throw your McDonald's bag, it goes on somebody else's yard. How stupid do you have to be to litter in your own front, they were littering in their own front yard. There was trash, like cans, and I thought, well, maybe somebody's throwing it over from the street. No, during the party, they would drink a Coke and throw it on the ground and not pick it up. And I was like, this country, this culture is creating a shitload of people that are not going to be successful. And sure enough, if you study that country, their GDP, it has a lot of poverty. Now, some of that's systemic, some of it's maybe the lingering effects of colonialism and stuff. But some of it, just people are wired by their watching their parents and friends' example. If you throw trash in your own front yard, you have zero chance of success in business. Please get out of my program and delete yourself from this live call. I can't help you, man. There's no help. Who throws trash in their own yard? Apparently, and I walk down the street, this whole country, they're just throwing. If you don't have the brain power and the conscientiousness to realize that if you throw enough trash in your front yard, it's gonna stink and be nasty. Like if you don't have the foresight for that, you have major psychological problems when it comes to success. And you go to Japan, and like I said, Japanese culture has some problems, but one thing they don't have a problem with, no one's throwing trash in their own front yard. I wish what we could do, I want to create a new country. A new country. It's called, blank slate land. And you literally pick and choose the greatest thing from every country. Like Russia has some great thinkers and intellectuals and chess players and authors. We take that part of Russia. I'm not saying that's the only good thing, but I'm just, whatever comes to my head. We take that from Russia. We take the cleanliness of Japan. We take the jolliness of Brazilians, because Brazilian people are some of the happiest people I've ever been around. We take the happiness of Brazil, not the happiness of Russia. Russia is not a happy place. Trust me, I've been to Russia. I was like, holy crap, I'm pretty sure I was here for 1 week and never saw somebody smile. 0 smiles. Here's my impersonation of a New York subway. Everybody's like this. They're not smiling and they're not frowning. Neutral face. Here's my impersonation of a Moscow subway. Everybody's, it takes extra muscles to frown. They're literally taking the time and energy to point their cheeks down. I couldn't stand that about Russia. No offense to you Russians. There's a lot I respect about Russia. Some of my favorite authors and philosophers are from Russia. Some of the great chess players, I like chess. There's a lot of great things about Russia, a lot of cool, but come on. What kind of country? And I'm not generalizing. Go on a Moscow subway. They were trained by society that the proper approach in public is to frown. Oh yeah, that's a great country that I want to live in. That's a great culture. Woohoo! Way to why would you wire your children that way? Like, I don't get that. French, we need to take all the food from France. No, actually, France is the greatest dressers in the world. Like, women in France dress so classy, yet sexy, but not, it's just like the perfect blend. Italy, we take the food from Italy. Hawaii, we take like the laid back, another jolly thing. Canada has I find Canada has some of the greatest entrepreneurs. California is kind of a cool place. We take a little bit of, there's I think 195 countries roughly in the world. I want to take the greatest thing from all 195, put it in one country, one environment, 0 of the bad. I mean, you're not going to be able to bring 0 of the bad, but most of the bad you keep out. That's where we should have been born. And then I wouldn't have to do this talk. Tai, can you please recommend some books on how to become better emotionally? Read The H Factor of Personality. That's actually going to, I can't remember if I gave that as homework before. I don't think I did. I'm going to give that as the homework. By the way, quick note. For those of you who are done, some of you have been in this program and it's completed. If you're interested, come right back. Come right back. And we'll put a button. Are we going to put a button up? We're going to put a button up, or do we have a URL? You can re-sign up again. I was thinking I wasn't going to do it again, but I'm going to do it. Now, I'm going to do it slightly different this time. I'm going to do it once a month. And I'm going to give you more stuff to work on. So you'll still get like a series of calls, but I've found that doing it once a week is a little bit too much for some people. People aren't able to show up on all the calls. And it's important if you're in it, you're not missing it. So I'm going to do a once a month call, and it'll be multiple months like that. And then I got more stuff for you to do, because the problem with doing it weekly is like, there's not enough time, for example, to read the H Factor personality. You might not be able to read that book. I want you, it's not just enough to come on these calls and listen to me. The point of this is not for you to listen to me talk. Okay? The point is for your life to get better. So I'm redesigning the mentor call test group to be more time for you to evolve, you know, more, and a little bit less pressure on you, and you really commit to show up once a month, and you really have the time to read a whole book, or you know, go through a whole process. So that's my answer. All right, I want to wrap up here. Yeah. So there's a button below, or what's the link? tailopez.com/mentor program. So if you want me to continue to share with you the things I wish somebody had taught me when I was 18 about business, life, the whole, I call it the good life is the goal. Health, wealth, love, and happiness. tailopez.com/mentor program. You can re-sign up. Omar Romero, Tai, I love your perspective on life. What you shared is a jewel. I'm a pastor and I deal with a lot of people, and common sense is a pearl. Pigs don't appreciate it. Yep. Omar, second thing I want to put up a link here. Let's get the link. Okay, I'm doing another seminar at my house. It's December 2nd. Okay, here's my advice to you for 2018. 2018 is almost here. I have mixed feelings about New Year's resolutions. The bad side of New Year's resolutions is for most people they're empty, and within 2 weeks they quit on them. But the good side is it's a fresh, the way our calendar works, it's just like an arbitrary time it's a new year. The way to have an amazing 2018 is start at the end of this year, right now. So I'm doing one last seminar at my house, December 2nd, correct? Please sign up for this. I'm not saying it because I want to make money. It is not my main source of income, never has been. I do the seminars because some of you learn better in person. Will you come? It's a one-day intensive. I mean, you come ready. I used to do them for 2 days, but it burns everybody out too much, and I can do it all in one day now. I bring in the best teachers. The last one, last month, I had 2 billionaires come. 2 billionaires. These guys are so hard, and they came and talked. I had another guy who just sold his last company for $1.3 billion. I had in this house, now I'm not going to promise this for every time. I'm just telling you about the last one. I had $6.5 billion in net worth. Net worth. There was guys here walking around. Now, some of them talked. One of them didn't. The richest guy didn't want to come on. He stayed in the back of my house because he didn't like a lot of people around. But I will be there teaching. Alex will be there teaching, my business partner. We'll be building your actual business we start at around 11 a.m. and we end around 9 p.m. Okay, so it's an intense day. We'll have food here. It's rock and roll. For those of you who have been, it is so popular that it's crazy. The same people keep re-signing up. I talked to, there was like 20 people who came to the first one who now came to the second one. It blew my mind. So I'm going to put a special link here. Go to this link, and basically, if you get in from this program, I'm going to give you half off /seminar. If you want 2018 to be badass, better than this year, start preparing in the next 30 days, next 35 days. This is coming up in the next month. Now, here's the deal. I do my roundtable. They now fill up ahead of time. For example, I'm doing my roundtable, which is one step. It's closed. It's sold out in the first 5 days. So I haven't even announced this on my social media. This will sell out. We had to cap the last one. Okay? 100 people was the cap, and I had to let in. So many people signed up so fast, it ended up being like 112 people. So this thing will sell out. You snooze, you lose, especially in December. And I'm doing it early in December, so it won't interfere with your Thanksgiving, and it won't interfere with your Christmas. It will prepare you. Remember, the winter of life is the time to prepare. The winter, your life goes in spring, summer, fall, and winter. What does the winter of your life represent? It's the planning, it's the learning, it's the mapping out what you're going to do. Literally, we're in the winter here in California. Coming up in the winter, come to this seminar. So you can do both of these. TaiLopez.com/mentor program will get you in these calls so that no matter where you live, we can continue on an ongoing basis. And then we have the seminar where you can come in person. And for most people, learning in person activates a different part of your brain. Okay? I'm going to give you your homework in a second. So I'm going to redo this program again in December. I'm going to redo the seminar. The mentor program is going to continue on. Okay? You'll be getting emails when the next one is. Ikui Kato, can you buy a ticket for your partner? Yes, when you go here to seminar, you can apply. You'll talk to somebody on my team. If you have a special request, special need, they'll work out. We're very, what's the word? We're very flexible. We're common sense. I teach my sales guy, like common sense, you know. Aaron Levin, I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, something very horrible happened to Ivan, and after the event, he completely changed and was forever named Ivan the Terrible. Yeah, people, trust me, Mao Zedong, Stalin, they weren't normal people. Somebody went wrong. Nicholas, Sam, yes, talk to the team. I'll talk to them on that. Nicholas, what's a book you recommend to deal with anxiety? So we'll be talking about that in the homework here. Neil, thanks for the great program, Tai. I got lots of positive, life-changing stuff. Very worthwhile. Tai, by the way, you're a pastor by gifting, whether you know it or not. Oh, I don't know if I'm a pastor, but there is a pastor who said he's on here. Juan Hernandez, thank you, Tai. I learned so much in the program. By the way, if you're wondering, we had 2 test groups, so it's the first test group that's expiring. Those of you who got in later, you still will continue to get emails. We'll send you the emails. If you're still in the program, you'll get access to the next call, so don't worry about that, okay? So if you're a little confused, don't worry, just check your email. If the program's up and it's completed, you won't be able to log in and get access to this. So if you can get access to this, you're still in. If you don't get, if you don't get access, if you don't have access anymore after this, you can just go here and re-up. I want to continue for those of you who really are rocking and rolling. Adams, please speak more about anxiety. Okay, here's the thing about anxiety. This is how it works in a rough scientific way. You have something called an alert system. Some people call it their parasympathetic. Let's just call it alert. We'll keep it real simple. So you were designed, or were born with the ability to alert yourself to danger. The problem, and what anxiety in a clinical negative way is, or having too much anxiety, your alert system doesn't turn off. You know what OCD is? One of the symptoms of OCD is like people wash their hands and it's clean, but their brain doesn't register that it's clean, so they wash again. There's people who have OCD who sit in front of a sink for 45 minutes washing their hands over and over. There's a video on YouTube of a post, like a guy who delivers the mail, who he opens the mail, somebody videotaped it, and he checks for the mail for 4 minutes straight. It's a 4-minute video. He goes, huh? He like collects the mail, puts it in his thing, but he wants to double check. And he keeps doing it for 4 minutes. And it's a huge psychological problem that some people have, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So here's what happens. Anxiety is different, but it has a similar trait that double checking once is smart, right? Like, so the postman, maybe one time he left a letter had fallen off the side when he opened the little blue post office box. So he learned to double check. Double checking's fine. Even triple checking is fine. Checking for 4 minutes straight is a major problem. So you obsessing and worrying about something, maybe once in your life you were late to work. So you set your alarm, and then that one time you had set your alarm, but you didn't double check it, so you set a second alarm. You take your iPhone, second alarm. That's okay, because that's smart, right? Common sense. You have a backup plan. If you have an important meeting and you're worried that the power goes out on the clock that's plugged in. You put your iPhone there because your iPhone, if it has juice, you know, if it's gonna stay charged and it'll wake you up. Now, what happens if you walked in somebody's room, your friend, your child, your brother, and there was 600 iPhones all set to 7 a.m.? Would you think they're a little bit too concerned? Is their alert system a little bit wacky? Yes, you don't need 600 alarms. It's too much. That's what anxiety is in the definition I'm giving and talking about today. It's where you just have so much alarm systems that when those alarms finally go off, they drive you crazy. Imagine waking up at 7 in the morning and 600 iPhones are going off. And you have to walk from one to another and like turn it off. Take you 30 minutes to turn off 600 iPhones, meaning the quality of your life would go bzzz. So there's no upside of having 600 alarms, but there is a lot of trauma to having 600. And some of you have a lot of trauma in your brain. Okay? And you have a lot of alarms going off, and you gotta turn a lot of them off. It's okay to have 2 or 3. If everything freaks you out at every moment, as I told you, the first step is make sure you're not hanging out with people with 700 alarms in their room. And I find anxious people to oftentimes surround themselves with people with the same level of neurosis because it makes them feel comfortable. They feel understood. Try to get around people who don't understand you. It's one of the greatest things. Like, if you want to make more money, hang out with somebody who looks at you and goes, I don't understand why your business only makes $2,000. It's weird to me. I have the same business and I make $2 million a month. What is wrong with you? That's the person you want to hang out with. Unfortunately, it will make you uncomfortable. And since another psychological ailment is narcissism, people don't like to be insulted, but you should love it. That kind of insult is actually a constructive insult. So this is the solution for many things. You must be around people who make you uncomfortable. The problem and the hard part is they don't really want to be around you. So you have to learn quickly or else they'll get too annoyed. I have 2 young daughters, some good books. I'm going to show you this book for homework in a second. Ty, besides banks and investment, okay, so let me just take general questions now. We got a lot of this. We've been on here for 2 hours. Davey Arias, awesome program. So happy that I got in. For those of you, I'm going to have my team who had a great experience in this. If you could record a little 30-second video, that would be awesome. Just saying, you know, how it helped you in any way. More money, happier, whatever it is. Fennell Littrell, the book Presence by Amy Cuddy, helped you with anxiety. She talked about power poses. Okay. We'll talk about, some of you are asking about past programs. If you're still in the program, you've got some more coming. This is just for the people who got in on day 1. Noel said, in regards to common sense, what's the best practice to find the best people in every industry you want to learn? So again, please, as you're looking for mentors, if you're looking for business partners, don't just go by how successful and much money they are. Find people that are low on all these things, okay? Most entrepreneurs, in my experience, are whack jobs. Sorry to break it to you, but 90 out of 100 are not people I'd want to be around. 10 out of 100 are awesome. Is there a chance for a bi-weekly call? Do you mean twice a week or do you mean twice a month? Because twice a week isn't possible. I travel too much. I wouldn't be able to be there. Bi-monthly, we'll see. I need you guys to trust me that once a month is going to be badass for you. Because I'm going to give you, here's the thing. What's happening and what I observe, because I always observe, that's why I call it a test group, because that means I haven't figured it all out yet. So there was a lot of good things about doing weekly calls. It was like, you know, for those of you who needed to be motivated, you were motivated once a week, and that's great. But remember, I'm not always going to be here. So this is almost, and also, once a week wasn't enough time. I would give, like this H factor of personality, you really need like a month to not only learn it, but start testing it and putting it in practice. It's going to take you, remember that book really takes you a year to learn how to use. It's a powerful tool. If I gave you a computer and it said become a programmer and you have 6 days to do it, it's not enough time. In a month you might get pretty far, you really need a year. So we need more duration of the overall program so it can go through multiple life cycles and multiple tests. So yes, Lucas, thanks to Tai, I've learned so much. Michael Lieber, best way to increase self-awareness. Remove all these. See, each of these is like having some dirt on your glasses. You can't see clearly. Narcissism is like a little speck there. Machiavellian, speck there. You know, psychotic, anxiety, conscientious diligence. All these are like little dirt. And the next thing you knew, you put your glasses on, you can't see. And when you're trying to go north, your compass, because you can't see, you go south. And 24,000 miles later, you get to your success, which means when you're 95 years old. Adam, I really want to be one of your live events. When will the next one be? December 2nd. Shamsher said, I just bought the program for the December 2nd seminar. Awesome. Shamsher Singh, looking forward to see you. Hey, Tai, can you please talk a little bit about how to cope with depression? So depression, here's the thing about depression. Depression is usually rooted in something. Now, not always. There's people that have just purely chemical issues, just like, you know, you can have your arm amputated. It's not like there's no other symptom. It's just something's missing. So some people have depression for just clinical, something's wired, like even from birth wrong, or you know, unhealthily. Then there's the rest of the people that become depressed because they make bad decisions. Dr. David Buss, I recorded a video on this. Dr. David Buss has in his studies, in one of his textbooks on evolutionary psychology, he talks about the origins and the functionality of depression. And there's different reasons. Like I said, a good bit of depression, a lot of depression. In fact, I would go so far as to say over 50% of depression comes from life events, right? Now, what caused the life event? Well, some of it's stuff outside of your control. You're 10 years old and your mom dies of cancer. Nothing you could do for that. So you're going to have, that's natural depression. And it's not your fault. It's not because you have made a bad decision. It's just life. Life's tough. Okay? There is no solution to some of life's problems. The second thing is you can be depressed because you made a horrible decision and got a degree in something you don't like to do, and then got a job in something you don't like to do, and now you have a wife and kids or a husband and kids with a mortgage and payments, and you're stuck in a dead-end job. That is basically your fault. Okay, so there's depression that comes from your fault, and there's depression that comes from things that are out of your control. So you first have to delineate, where's my depression coming from? Like I said, if your mom died of cancer when you're 10, that depression is not your fault. So their depression just serves a purpose to go through grieving and all that stuff. But when you date a horrible person and every single one of your friends said don't date that person, and you ignored all the smart people and you married them, and then they screwed you over and took all your money or cheated on, then that's your fault. Because a horrible person is going to be a horrible person. A jack is a jack. You can't blame a jack for being a jack. If you, as an adult, I'm not talking about child marriage. You know, some countries you get married to someone you didn't have a choice. But in America, in most countries, if you get married at 30 years old to everybody who with common sense told you not to marry, and now you're depressed because life sucks, you have to go to the root of it, which is, I guarantee the reason if you marry a horrible person, remember, like attracts like. The true law of attraction. I've thought of writing a book called The True Law of Attraction. Would say, well, oh, you ended up with a narcissist? I get people being like, I'm dating the biggest narcissist. And I'm like, you're a narcissist. No normal person is highly attracted to a narcissist for long. Narcissists are charming at the beginning, but you're not going to charm you for 1 year or 2 years till you got engaged and married. If you're highly Machiavellian, guess who you're going to marry? Machiavellian. This happens, if you're anxious, you think a normal person wants to marry a hyper anxious person? No. And if they do, they have some other problems. Diligence, if you're lazy, You think the hardest working spouse is going to be so excited to be with a super lazy partner? If your business partner is lazy, what does that say about you? It says one or two things. Either you're lazy or you're not smart enough to be able to tell somebody who's lazy. Some people don't like when I say this. It's too blunt for some people, which there's another psychological problem, which is overly sensitive, which is usually, by the way, related to narcissism. If you're offended by things I've said or easily offended, almost always you're a narcissist, okay? How do you cut people off? They may spread rumors. Yeah, sometimes you have to do it, Reagan, in a very strategic way. Sometimes you can't instantly cut people off. Jermaine, outstanding course. The best and most effective knowledge I've received after 6 years of college. Wow, thank you, Jermaine. Ty, read Lenin. You won't believe your own eyes. Hitler was a psychopath. Lenin was a monster. Yeah, Lenin. And guess who Lenin attracted? Stalin, Trotsky, Lenin. And then after Stalin, you had Khrushchev. Like attracts like. Like attracts like. Even in America, you have ding-dong presidents, and then you get the next ding-dong. Now, presidents aren't, yeah. No American president was as bad as Stalin that I know of, but American presidents have been plenty bad. But the system doesn't allow you to quite kill 100 Mao Zedong basically responsible for 100 million people, of his own people, by the way. Even this American Civil War, 100 million people weren't killed. Neil said, thank you. Weekly was a little too much time. Weekly calls was a little too much. There wasn't enough time to put in what I learned. Good. So yeah, those of you getting in will understand. Nathania Davis, I love how blunt you are. If we have tickets from previous courses but can't redeem them, can we use them? Okay, the tickets that I gave away were for conferences. So I'm doing a conference in January. Those are not at my house. I cannot fit. Conferences hold 500 to 1,000 people. Legally, there's no way I can bring, my neighbors would have a heart attack. I mean, I could have 1,000 people here, but the police would shut it down. So if you have a ticket from a past course you bought, that is for a conference. We will be doing conferences. We did one last month, or actually this month, earlier this month. So we'll be doing some conferences in 2018. Seminars are different. They're smaller, and they're at my house. And so they're smaller, I can give you more attention. So I don't give away seminar tickets because then I can't give enough away. Literally, my house can really only hold 100 people for these. Gene, so once I log out today, I won't be able to log back in. It depends when you got in. If there's any confusion, whether you were in the first test group or the second test group, you will know. We'll send you an email. In fact, I'm going to have them, Josh, can you tell them to send an email to everybody who's completed saying thanks, you're now completed, and here's a link if you want to continue and re-up again. And then if you don't get that email, that means you're still have more access. Vanell Luttrell, what's the latest news for the Inner Circle? Yeah, I'm doing an Inner Circle investment group. I'll be talking about that soon. Sherry said depression is also hereditary. Yes. Almost everything's hereditary. Machiavellian is one of the few things that's not hereditary. You can Google it. They've not found it really to be related to that. But lots of things. I mean, height, skin color, hair, when you die, all these have a genetic factor. And certainly depression does too. But what are you going to do? Just be depressed just because your parents were? It's a very nihilistic way and depressing way to live life. So, Leslie, what advice would you give a stereotypical girl becoming a woman? What do you mean by a stereotypical girl? I'm not sure what you mean. But what advice would I give to a girl becoming a woman? I'll take out the stereotypical. I would just say, the world's becoming much flatter than you think. Meaning, if you build an online business and you're a woman, no one knows. So they won't discriminate against you. If you're black, if you're Asian, if you're Latin, no one can discriminate you if you don't have your face on your website. That's what I mean. The world still has a lot of messed up stuff, but there's more ways to overcome them now than it's ever been. If 200 years ago, if you were a race that people didn't like and were prejudiced against, and you opened like a butcher shop, everybody saw your face there, and it was a small town, and they go, oh, don't buy from that person, we're racist against them. Now in the modern world, have you ever bought something on Amazon from an Amazon store? Did you look and go, I won't buy this suntan lotion, I won't buy this unless I know the race and gender of this person? No. So the world's becoming flatter, meaning it's more connected. It's also has more blindfolds on it now. The internet is a blindfold. Okay? Most people don't know what Jeff Bezos looks like, even though he's now the richest man in the world. Tai about the Millionaire Mentor Program in August, just started recently. If you have any questions, just send an email. We will work on it. Are there any requirements to get into the Amish community? Yeah, it's pretty hard to get in with the Amish. I kind of got lucky. So, can't always just do it like I did it. Okay, Ronnie says, how do we remove, here's the first, he said, how do you remove these negative qualities? Here's your homework. For those of you who are done, you can just re-up. You can just re-up. Here's your homework. There is a book. It's called The H Factor of Personality. If you truly take a while, and I want you to take a while to really absorb this. I don't want you to read this book in 5 minutes, okay? Don't read this, please, in 5 minutes. Do not try to speed read it in even 1 hour. I'm going to try to pull up. So, the book, by the way, is written, here is a picture of the book. This one here? Yeah. So this is the book. It's by Lee. The H Factor, you can get it. I recommend you get it on your iBooks, and that you also get it physical. It's by Lee and Ashton, okay? Very respected book. So this is not some crappy pop psychology book or something like that, that somebody just invented something. Okay, this is real. This is a real book. The H Factor of Personality, Lee and Ashton. Get that book. Your homework is very simple. Immerse yourself in understanding this book. This is by far a top 10 book I wish somebody had given me at age 18. By far, maybe top 5. In terms of how this would have helped me get rid of psychological issues, read other people when they have psychological issues. In order, for this book would have helped me make more money by finding better business partners, be better at marketing and promotion faster, okay? Zana Ali, hey Tai, I'm trying to absorb knowledge and learn as much as possible. However, I feel I'm lacking in execution. So that's one of the things. As you work on your psychological issues, one of them is diligence. Some people are naturally lazier than others. It can be genetic and it's upbringing, the mental mind map that Dr. Helen Fisher talked about. So I think that one of the things, if you notice, the solution to many things is changing who you're around. By the way, the reason I do now in-person seminars, for about a year I wasn't doing any in-person. A few years ago I was doing in-person conferences and seminars, and I stopped doing them. They're more expensive to do, they're more of a headache, and I switched 100% to online programs. I've changed that, not because I'm trying to make more money. In fact, I make less money in this new business model, but I help more people. Because I want you also to come to my house or come to a conference. And in addition to being on this, where you don't see the whole community of people to help you, to teach you things, to encourage you, network, motivate you. When you come to my house and there's 100 people here of like mind, you will find friends, allies, business partners, motivators. You will help others, they will help you. And like I said, I've been telling that to people since really 2013, and some people don't believe me. They think I'm just trying to pitch people to come to my seminar. I'm not. In a perfect world, I wouldn't do seminars or conference. They're a pain in the butt, man. I got to open up my house. I can make money online just as fast or way faster actually. But I do it because, Zana, it will help you. Okay? Rolandas. Tai, what's a business anyone could start up immediately for a little bit of income? I launched a program, if you go to Tai Lopez, called How to Make Money Online. TaiLopez.com. Tai, would you advise to reduce imposter syndrome? Talia Bavardra. Imposter syndrome. Are you talking about somebody who's not genuine? That usually is Machiavellian, if I understand you right. Let me Google that. I'm not. Is that a psychological element I haven't heard of? Imposter syndrome. I learned from you guys too here. Oh. Imposter syndrome is a concept describing individuals who are marked by an inability to internalize their accomplishments and a persistent fear of being exposed as a fraud. Oh, this is like tall poppy syndrome. Yeah, I don't think this is a very common one, but yes, this would be like people, whenever they're successful, they can't congratulate themselves. I don't find that to be a huge problem. If you have that problem, I don't know much about it, but it sounds like it's a niche. There's a lot, by the way, I did not begin to touch on the psychological problems people could have. I just was sharing with you the most common that I'm pretty sure everybody on this call had at least one of those. Danielle, for the day one people, is it free to extend? No, it's just a regular program. It's like taking a class. So we did, 2 or 3 months, and if you want to stay and go to the next class, you just pay again. Tai, any idea when you're starting the live call for the money making online program? Yep, we'll be doing those once a month, probably next week. Mercedes, thanks for all your program. You helped me a lot. Tai, I have a question. For those unable to reapply for the mentorship right away, we'll be able to review previous lessons. Yeah, I'm working. We're trying to decide on that. We'll get you an email. We're going to make a decision on that. Someone said once a fortnight would be best, in my humble opinion. We'll try this, and then we'll make it better if it needs to be changed. Is it possible to make this course a tax deduction? If you have a business, almost for sure you can tax deduct this. If you're a full W-2 employee, ask your accountant. If you have 1099 income, or self-employed income, yeah. Ernest Vision, The Happiness Hypothesis is a book that helped. Tai, I have 2 businesses. One is furniture design and manufacture. The other is a parts business. Do you think it's crazy to have 2 directions? Always have one primary. You can have secondary sources of income, but never forget what your primary is. Don't try to have 2 businesses 50-50. Doesn't work. So I'm starting a website for a service-based business with the intention of eventually selling digital and physical products. Best platform to host with. When you guys come December 2nd, I'll give you a little preview. See, the main platforms people are using now are ClickFunnels, Shopify, or selling on Amazon. You can also use WordPress and WordPress plugins. Those are the 4 main things I recommend. It depends. You didn't say what you're selling. ClickFunnels is better for some things, worse than Shopify and others. All right, I'm going to wrap up here. I'm losing my voice a little bit. Thank you so much. I look forward to a lot of you re-upping and seeing you on the next call, or if you haven't expired, we'll send that email if you've expired. But go here, re-up if you've expired, if you were in that original day 1, week 1 test group, and then December 2nd. I look forward to seeing you all one day in person. Okay, so thanks so much.
Is that just the homework, just to read that book?
Yeah, the homework, H factor of personality, and leave a serious comment. It should not be one sentence. It should be something like a paragraph or 2 that you really took away. This book, you'll start seeing how, I want you to start using this book to reading people around you, your wife, your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your business partner, your best friend. Somehow that turned on Siri. So use H factor personality, start using it to read people and observe. All of common sense starts with the increase in awareness and observation, okay? Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you soon.